Hello everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer for the month of January 2026. To those of you guys who are watching in December, happy holidays. Obviously this is a little early, so early Christmas present for y'all. And if you guys are watching this in the new year, happy new year. I'm going to be showing you guys the horoscopes for the month of January for the 12 rising signs. I am using the Western system, and I'm going to be using the whole sign system for my presentation today. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about what is going on for the kickoff of 2026. Now, if you guys want to see more about me and my work, do check out the links below. Head over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. While you guys are there, sign up for my newsletter. I promise not to spam you guys. But we might be having a coupon code that we're going to send out for a price reduction and savings for products for the holidays. So if you guys are wanting to get one of my 2026 printed calendars, they're beautiful. I've got 12 months of rituals. You also get a profile on each and every one of the Zodiac signs, all the important ingresses, retrogrades, eclipses, new and full moons. And I have a new monthly kind of layout where you're going to get a QR code that you can scan and you get a tarot reading for the month for each and every one of the 12 signs. So we have printed ones, we also have digital ones, and we offer a 12-month personal transit calendar that goes right into your Google Calendar or your iPhone to see what transits are kind of happening in your natal chart to help you guys be prepared on a daily basis for 2026. So check that out. All right, so we've got a lot going on this month. I just want to preface this by saying, in my opinion, there are so many transits. You guys are going to be like, what? When you see this laundry list. So the way that I'm going to navigate kind of doing the horoscope this month is I'm going to show you how I'm making the predictions. This is the list of transits that I am going to be kind of looking at as I do each rising signs kind of overview for the month ahead. So I'm not going to be like this day, this day, this day, because honestly, there is a ton of planets that are moving very close together, and they're going to be moving through predominantly Capricorn and Aquarius, and then they're going to make a lot of the same aspects. We're going to see conjunctions, oppositions, and then we're also going to see some big conjunctions that are going to be happening. So in my opinion, when you listen to your forecast this month, there's really only a couple areas that you really want to take a look at. Pull out your chart. This is where it pays to be prepared and know what's kind of going on with your astrology. Look at the area of Capricorn, okay? That house, there is going to be a ton of action. I also want you guys to look at Cancer. There's going to be a lot of oppositions to Jupiter in that house, and that's going to make things feel bigger. We're also going to have a full moon there too, which is pretty beautiful around the beginning of the year. And then we will see all of these planets start to then move, Mercury, Sun, Venus, Mars, into Aquarius, where there will be conjunctions to Pluto. And last but not least, we're also going to see Neptune going back into Aries. Now I'm going to break it all down for you guys. I have like a general overview that I'm going to do now, and then we will move on to the 12 rising signs. But I just was looking at it and I was like, if I go through all of these one by one, everybody's going to get so overwhelmed. And I feel like a lot of these transits, because they're moving side by side and we're seeing some really unusual conjunctions, it's better to kind of talk about it as a whole to give you guys the general kind of overview. And then as we get into the 12 rising signs, I'm still going to tell you guys where the ingresses are happening and where we're seeing the conjunctions, the new and the full moons. But I'm going to make it a little bit more polished for you so that way you don't get overwhelmed. Because if I'm getting overwhelmed looking at it, you're getting overwhelmed looking at it. And to be honest with you, January feels a little overwhelming, and we're going to talk about why. Now also, we are going into January, which means we will be weeks away from this brand new North Nodal eclipse that we're going to see in February. Now I'm going to save that for, January going into February. I'll definitely touch on the eclipses far in advance before we get there. But usually a couple weeks before we have eclipse season, we start feeling the effects of the eclipses coming in. So just as like a preview, February will be debuting a solar eclipse in the late degrees of Aquarius. It will be a North Node eclipse that is kind of foreshadowing what is to come when the North Node moves into Aquarius over the summer in 2026. So it's going to start showing us lots of action as planets move into Aquarius. We're going to feel that build up. And I have a feeling that by the month's end in January, you are going to be like, whoa, what is coming? What new things are going to start kind of taking place? So if you happen to have anything around 27, 28, 29 degrees of Aquarius, or even any of the other fixed signs, so I would say Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, you guys are probably going to be feeling that. And yeah, let me know how you guys are kind of doing with the vibes. As always, give me a thumbs up and like this content. If you resonate with this video, if you find it helpful, do drop me a comment below. Let me know your rising sign. I'd love to hear how the month plays out for you. It's always fun to go back and look at the comments at the end of the month because so many people are like, whoa, this is crazy. So thank you guys for your feedback. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of this. So much great content on the channel. I'm here Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, giving you guys my insight on what's happening with the cosmos and also a little bit of tarot that's peppered in there as well. So do subscribe if you want to see more of that. All right, so on to January 2026. So, you know, no doubt 2026 means serious business, and that's because the new year kicks off with a ton of planets in Capricorn. So if you happen to have any prominent placements in Capricorn, pay attention, especially if you guys have anything, I would say the second and the third decan. So really anything from about 15 to 29 degrees, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on there. Now, I think that January kind of has like this beautiful part flow. So we're going to see the universe is kind of guiding us from solid groundwork in Capricorn to more revolutionary kind of sparks, finally moving into some bold new dreams. Now, the full moon in Cancer will be taking place. That'll be on the 3rd, right at the beginning of the month. And this is setting the tone right away. And it's all about a strong kind of emotional spotlight on home, family, and security versus all that outward hustle. And that's going to be the oppositions that we're seeing between the sun in Capricorn and the moon in Cancer. I think it's a beautiful moon. It's, obviously in the same sign as Jupiter, but it is showing this polarity where we're getting kind of pulled back and forth between Capricorn and Cancer. So many of us will feel this classic kind of tug between nurturing ourselves and conquering the world. And this is why I say, look at where Capricorn and Cancer is in your chart. Now, we start the month off in deep Capricorn season. So we're going to have a very powerful cluster of planets, the Sun, Venus, Mars, and Mercury, all moving through Capricorn, lighting up conjunctions very early on. The first 10 days of the month, you guys are going to see that. And we will see the Sun meeting with Venus around the 6th for sweet kind of harmonious vibes in love and values. And then Venus will join Mars on the 8th. And this is bringing passion and drive together. So lots of love stories, obviously lots of long-term planning in relationships, lots of career goals also that are being set. And then we will see the Sun conjunct Mars on the 9th of January, and that's giving us a very serious willpower boost. Now, I think the energy is kind of classic. Let's get organized, let's set goals, let's make things happen. And I think this is perfect for kicking off the new year with some ambition and really taking practical steps in relationships or pushing forward when it comes to work and money matters. Now, there's a catch though, okay? So like I said, all of these Capricorn planets are going to oppose Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. Now, this is really going to peak. You're going to feel this between the 9th and the 14th of January, and everything gets amplified with this opposition to Jupiter in Cancer. It's going to be interesting to see Jupiter in its exaltation, Mars in its exaltation, and they're going to be battling it out in that 180 degree square. So this means that motivation runs very high, but emotions swell. And we're going to kind of feel like there's a lot of big plans that are in motion. Obviously, it's great for big picture thinking, but easy to overcommit, easy to overspend or clash if tempers flare. So if you guys have anything in the cardinal signs this month, really, I would say 15 to 29 degrees, pay attention. So my Aries, my Cancers, my Libras, obviously Capricorn's kind of, feeling like they're starting the year very strong. They have a lot of power, but these squares are going to be quite intense. Now we will then see there's going to be a new moon that'll happen in Capricorn on the 18th. And that's going to be giving a clean slate basically for long-term intentions just before everything shift gears. Now we will find that then mid-month the energy flips, I think honestly in the best way, because Venus will actually be leading the way into Aquarius first on the 17th of the month. The Sun will then follow on the 19th, and we'll move into Aquarius season. and Mercury will enter into Aquarius on the 20th. So this big kind of parade of parties in Capricorn is now moving into Aquarius. And then on the 23rd, we will see Mars join the bunch as well in Aquarius. So suddenly there is this shift where they're both Saturn signs, traditionally at least, but there is going to be the shift from working in goals to where we are going collectively, where we're going into the future. And we're being more innovative, we're more forward thinking in Aquarius, and also ideas can flow more freely. Friendships and groups take center stage, and future visions can feel very exciting, maybe a little rebellious too. Now, this Aquarius wave gets intense because, hi, Pluto's in Aquarius. So we have to see all of these planets meet up with Pluto and form a conjunction in the early degrees. So if you have anything in Aquarius, I would say 0 to about 3, maybe 4 degrees, you're going to be feeling this quite immensely. Obviously, Pluto is there, and each planet will be meeting with Pluto as it enters. So it has to almost cross that threshold, go through a purification, a purge, and a dramatic change. And this is going to start with Venus conjuncting Pluto on the 19th. We're going to see Mercury conjuncting Pluto on the 22nd. We're going to see the Sun conjuncting Pluto on the 23rd, and then Mars conjuncting Pluto on the 27th. I'm expecting depth, okay? I'm also expecting power dynamics out in the world and also in relationships or social circles to come up. And we're going to see with Pluto, it's about purging hidden truths, bringing it to the surface, major transformative shifts around freedom and also authenticity. It's potent, it's very edgy, but ultimately we need to keep in mind that Aquarius is meant to be liberating. Now on the 26th, we're going to see Neptune re-enters into the sign of Aries. And if you guys remember, in the summer of 2025, we saw a brief kind of run there of Neptune sitting at the 0-degree Aries point. Saturn will be there also come February, and we are inching our way closer and closer to mid-February's Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. So, you know, very potent degree in the Zodiac. It's the first degree of the Zodiac. This is where things really kind of kick into high gear. I think that, you know, it's going to be interesting to watch because anytime we see, you know, Saturn or Neptune at this degree, it's all about fresh starts. So dreams, intuition, creativity, and spirituality are taking more of an Aries kind of stance. So it's going to make us more courageous, maybe a little bit more of a personal edge. And I think that bold, pioneering, you know, kind of inspiration that we maybe tasted earlier this year returns stronger and it's deeper. So it's really time to chase our individual visions. And this is about really blending spirit with action and stepping into new identities that feel truly our own. Now, Neptune still softens the lines a little bit. So, you know, you guys got to keep grounded amid some of the excitement, and we will see even more fireworks that are going to be happening in mid-February. So watch for that. I think really in short, you know, early January is more ambitious. It's more getting things done. There's a lot more drive. There's a lot of emotional depth and obviously Jupiter-sized growth and opportunities that can come from that. Just don't overdo it, right? Don't overextend yourself. Don't overcommit. When we get into mid to late month, it's more innovative with that Aquarius energy, and we're going to see lots of transformation as planets are meeting up with Pluto. So watch the Aquarius area of your chart. And then obviously Neptune in Aries is igniting this brave new personal dream for the long haul, because we're going to have, I think Neptune's going to be in Aries until like 2039 or so. So it's going to be quite a while that we're going to have Neptune in that sign. And now it's here to stay. I'm sure many of you guys watch a lot of astrologers on YouTube, and everybody's telling you how big this year is. And I know we can kind of get like that every year, but January and February is like, holy cow, there is going to be some very, very big changes that are going to be happening in the world. And you're going to see that happening in your life as well. I'm looking at it from an optimistic standpoint. I think it's very dynamic. I think it's an empowering start to 2026. Really, it's going to be about building foundations and like breaking through old limits and really lighting that inner fire. So if we lean into ambition early in the month, we can welcome some of the revelations that can come in mid-January and really let Neptune and Aries maybe kind of spark some things and guide us to whatever is kind of calling us to what's next. And the year is going to feel absolutely electric. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And without further ado, let's get into the 12 rising signs. Hey Aries and Aries risings, welcome to your January 2026 horoscope. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're pumped, you're ready, because there's a lot of things that are going on for you guys this month. So let's start off with your chart ruler. Let's talk a little bit about Mars. As you guys know, Mars is moving through Capricorn. It's going to be moving through Capricorn and then into Aquarius this month. So it's very active having Mars kind of going through your 10th house of career. This is also about your reputation, what you're doing out in the world. And we will also see on the 8th of January that it will come into conjunction with Venus. So I like this day for you because it's good for passionate professional connections, maybe love at work, or maybe really putting yourself out there, connecting with other people. And then it will also come into conjunction with the sun on January the 9th. And this is really good for you guys for peak ambition and visibility out in the world. Now on the 10th, we will see that Mars will come into an opposition with Jupiter in Cancer. So you just got to watch for overconfidence and kind of clashes that can come up with authority figures. Also watch for when Mars comes into a trine with Uranus and Taurus on the 19th. I think this can bring some liberating breakthroughs in your goals and some positive financial changes. Then on the 11th, we're going to see, excuse me, I take that back. Then we're going to see it's going to enter into the 11th house of your networks, your friends, your goals, your aspirations. And on the 23rd, that takes place. And then on the 27th, you're going to see Mars come into conjunction with Pluto. So this is something you guys need to watch for on the 27th. This could be an intense, also transformative kind of surge in groups. It can represent some changes to your future plans. It can also kind of showcase some power struggles that are kind of coming up with your friend groups, but it's good for making bold change. Okay, so that's how I want you guys to look at it. Additionally, I know that you guys have Chiron in your sign, so you will see these planets coming into a square with Chiron in Aries. So if you have anything around 21, 22, 23 degrees, Aries, sun, moon, or rising, you know, that can, in your first house, really trigger some wounds that can be coming up for you around your identity, maybe bringing up a need to be a little bit more assertive. Maybe you're feeling like you're not enough in some way, especially when it comes to leadership matters. And I would say just use it consciously for healing anything relating to like anger or self-doubt. Okay, so watch for that. Now, the themes for you overall in January are going to be ambitious action early in the month. We got to get work done when planets are going through the 10th house. When planets go into the 11th house, that's when we can party, right? It's like the Friday night where we can finally like relax after, you know, a long week's work. So then you'll see the second half of the month when planets go into Aquarius in your 11th house, there is going to be this huge focus on social connections, friends, networks, also power shifts that are going to be happening later in the month. And we really want to channel your Mars energy courageously and mindfully. And it's a lot of like rounding up the troops when Mars goes through Aquarius. You're going to find that maybe you're the ringleader, or you're kind of focusing on, you know, bringing people together, or you're getting really serious about your future goals. January is a powerhouse month for you. Obviously with all this career momentum that's taking place, and then it's kind of ending with a real profound shift as planets go into the 11th house. Remember that the 10th house can be your profession, it can be your reputation, it can also mean that there is a focus on achievements and your public life. And that early month stellium, you know, conjunctions, I think is very powerful for you guys for getting recognition and real visibility. Now, what you're going to want to watch for is that there's going to be so much opposition to Jupiter in Cancer in your 4th house. So really, when I think about this, it kicks off on the 3rd when you see a full moon in your 4th house. And this is going to kind of bring up for you guys, you know, it's illuminating something revolving around culminations at the home. So perhaps a release around, you know, security issues, family dynamics, or the need to just focus on your nurturing spaces. It could be buying homes, selling homes, big changes for the family. And obviously Jupiter has this tie to the 9th house. So it could mean that there are some, you know, family coming to visit, or there's some relocations or some moves or some big kind of goals regarding your home that's kind of being highlighted. And then mid-month, when these planets get into Aquarius, when we see everything kind of going through the 11th house, I think that one thing I would really watch for is just that intensification when it comes to your social connections. I would really use Mercury going through there about strategic thinking when it comes to your goals. And then when the sun enters on the 23rd, it's going to be spotlighting everything regarding your dreams. Now, when Mars shows up on the 27th, it's about bringing some of these goals to action. So this stretch is really going to kind of transform your social world, your long-term visions, anything regarding, old alliances that may potentially fade, and powerful new connections can actually emerge. There can also be revelations about what you truly want for your future, and that can surface in like a very forceful way when Mars and Pluto are coming into conjunction. What I do like is when Venus is actually moving through your 10th house on the 15th, and it's coming into a trine with Uranus and Taurus. And I feel like this can be a time where that Mars trine Venus on the 15th, and then, Venus trine Uranus on the 15th, and then Mars trine Uranus on the 19th feels exciting to me. This feels like it's a time where there's liberating breakthroughs at work, sudden career opportunities, maybe innovative steps forward, feeling like you're moving towards your aspirations. And then obviously the big news is going to be that Neptune is moving back into your sign. So if you have anything around 0 to about 2 or 3 degrees of Aries, this is going to be the most prominent for you guys. You got a little taste of it over the summer and this last year. And I see this as, the first house is all about yourself. It's your identity, it's your body. This is your personal style and how you kind of show up out in the world. So it's possible that around January 26th, you are launching a new 14-year cycle, and it's really going to be highlighting and really heightening your intuition, maybe your sense of, spiritual self-awareness. Maybe it is some kind of inspired reinvention that you're going through. And your presence in a way is bringing more kind of like a magnetic and dreamy energy. However, you have to watch for blurred boundaries, identity confusion. There can be a sense of not seeing yourself so clearly. You can also feel a little bit more sleepy than usual. And you definitely want to pay attention to what's going on regarding your health and your body. Okay, that's very important. Now, I think the best dates for you guys this month are going to be January 15th when Venus is trining Uranus, and I think that's going to bring you guys an unexpected career or personal win. I also really like the January 18th new moon that's going to be taking place in your 10th house of career and reputation. Prime time for my Aries risings to be really focusing on launching new businesses, approaching a point of major decisions that are being made at work, or giving presentations, or having some kind of breakthrough when it comes to your professional intentions. I also like January 19th when we're going to see Mars in your career zone trining Uranus in your second house in Taurus, because this is going to really energize you. I think you're going to have a breakthrough financially. And I also like January 29th when Mercury and Venus are coming into conjunction, and there's going to be a conjunction in Aquarius in your 11th house. And I think that this is going to be wonderful for networking, for connecting with groups, for putting yourself out on the internet. It can also be a wonderful time where there is a lot of alliance building that's going on within a community. However, some of the most challenging days, I think, are going to be on January the 1st, where we're going to see Mercury move into 29 degrees of Capricorn and square. We're going to see Mercury that's going to be coming into a square with, with Neptune. So that's going to actually be in Sagittarius at the beginning of the month. And then we're also going to see, if you happen to be a Aries, around, I think 12, 13, 14 degrees, the full moon that's going to be in Cancer, or the new moon that's going to be in Cancer, is going to square you. So you have to be mindful of that can be bringing up like a lot of emotions for you. The Mercury-Neptune square, I think, is going to be more challenges around reputation and kind of like your direction. The full moon in Cancer in the fourth house is going to be a lot of like emotional peaks, and maybe you feel like there's like a lot of distractions going on, at home that are kind of keeping you from some of your professional goals, and you're going to feel kind of pulled into different directions, especially the January 9th through the 14th, when you see that there are these oppositions where work life feels like it's overloaded. There could be a lot of impulsivity. There can also be a major family pull. And you guys need to watch out for January the 27th when Mars and Pluto come into conjunction in Aquarius in your 11th house, because this conjunction is a 3. Something you say, something that you post, some kind of conversation you have with another person can involve a lot of like drama and some intense, power dynamics in groups or with friends or something online. I think if this were me, to navigate the month ahead, I would be more focused on channeling your kind of like natural pioneering spirit into something that's going to be structured and be focusing on goals the best that you can early on in the month. get work done, right? Show up, be out in the world, do your thing. Use the new moon that you're going to have in Capricorn to map out your 2026 ambitions and really take decisive steps forward over these next several weeks. Maybe intentionally carve out, family or downtime to kind of honor some of the stuff that's going on with the Jupiter opposition in your 4th house. And then mid-month, when you're going through these Pluto conjunctions in your 11th house in Aquarius, really what you want to do is you want to ask for ruthless authenticity in friendships. If you're asking somebody for advice, they're going to tell you exactly what they think. This is about being fearless when it comes to going after your goals and your dreams. And maybe it's a time to really release kind of like misaligned people or goals to make space for things that are new and something that feels empowering. With Neptune settling into your 1st house, you want to incorporate gentle, intuitive practices. So things like meditation, journaling, maybe creative self-expression, and really just trying to stay clear of any potential idealization or like illusions that can be kind of coming up. I think a lot of you guys are going to be stepping into a very bold new personal era, and you're really going to see that especially over like the next 2 months with some of the Saturn-Neptune stuff that's happening in your sign. Really, this is about staying grounded, acting courageously, and the month is really, truly, I think, going to be launching you guys forward. So with that being said, let's take a look and let's see what the tarot has to say for you guys for the month of January 2026. I'm still getting used to saying that. It's so weird. And let's see what the advice is for the month ahead. Interesting. So the card that I got for you guys is Temperance. Okay, Temperance. Which I see this as like a balancing act, right? But this is about being at the right time, at the right place, or waiting for the right moment. And I think a lot of you guys are going to kind of feel with planets going through the 10th house that work or responsibility or your career or what you're doing out in the world is really dominating how you feel and what you would rather be doing. If you would rather be home, if you would rather be with family, if you are feeling called to move or relocate, and all of the squares coming into aspect with Chiron in your sign is really highlighting perhaps maybe where you feel like your body is taking on too much, and it can be emotions that are kind of impacting your body. I do think with like Neptune in your sign this month and then Saturn coming in next month, there can be this feeling of just being like lethargic, and I would say pace yourself. There is a tendency, I think, to go to extremes when we see oppositions that are kind of happening in cardinal signs. And I will tell you, you guys can only take so much. Perhaps maybe it's about you really looking at things going, where am I overextending myself, and how can I make a little bit more me time? How can I take time to really turn within, focus on personal self-healing, recognize where your body is maybe kind of crying out and asking you for a little bit of attention, and knowing that you don't have to do everything at one time, right? Especially I could see with like all the conjunctions happening in your career house, there's this sense to like work, which is fine. But you're going to be working differently in 2026. Some of you guys are going to be retiring. Some of you guys are going to be becoming self-employed. Some of you guys are going to be realizing that it's just too much and it's time for you to scale back or to kind of change directions in your career. And a lot of that is just this incoming Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which won't be until February. But I think that you have to make your health your number one priority. And, yes, you can do it with all this like activated energy in Capricorn in your 10th, but, how much is too much? And at what point are you kind of like driving yourself into the ground? You may feel like you get so much work done that, come end of January going into February that you look back and you go, that's not sustainable. So use the new moon in Capricorn to plant those seeds about how you're going to be working differently and finding a way to balance the private life and the public life over the next 6 months as that becomes a full moon later in Capricorn in the summer of 2026. Aries, I'm really excited to see what happens for you guys this month. You'll have to let me know how it goes, and I will see you back here in February. Hey Taurus and Taurus risings, welcome to your January 2026 horoscope. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the new year. We're going to talk all things relating to Venus because obviously Venus is your ruler, and we are going to see Venus doing some things this month, guys. So there's going to be obviously some sweet and some salty. So let's start with what's happening with Venus. So Venus will be moving through Capricorn, and you're actually going to see that there is going to be a Sun-Venus conjunction in your 9th house. You're going to see a Mars-Venus conjunction in your 9th house. And the ninth house, Capricorn, is a fellow sister earth sign. So you're going to see some nice trines to your Taurus planets if you're a Taurus sun, moon, or rising. And also it will be trining Uranus in your first house. So that's working really nicely. The ninth house deals with travel. It's connecting to your belief system. It's about higher learning. It can be about legal matters, anything in regards to working with teachers, mentors, gurus. And I think that the conjunction that you're going to see on the January 8th between Venus and Mars is very passionate. Okay, so love and traveling, long distance relationships, passionate exploration or debates. And then we will also see Venus from your ninth house coming into a trine with Uranus in your first house. And that's going to be happening around the 15th of January. Really great for exciting insights or sudden opportunities. And then we will also see that Venus will be sextiling Saturn throughout this trek, Saturn and Pisces in your 11th. And that's going to be great for, grounded growth that you're having with friends and also anything revolving around groups or your goals. Now, you will see Venus enter into Aquarius, and it'll go into your 10th house of your career. And it is going to be happening on the 17th, and that is putting you out in the world front and center. People are seeing you more, and it will come into conjunction with Pluto on January the 19th. I'm a little bit mixed on this. I feel like your Venus, obviously Pluto can be relationships, partners, business partners, marital partners, and this is a powerful public kind of merger or union. So, the positive is that this could be very deep and transformative, and it can be really about working with some very powerful people professionally, but it can also bring up some reputational themes that are kind of emerging and some power dynamics in status or values that will intensify. On the 29th, we're going to see Mercury coming into conjunction with Venus. This will be also in your 10th house, and this is really a harmonious kind of career communication day. Obviously, Mercury can be about things involving your children, your creative projects, something that you have kind of created that you want to announce to the world. And I think that the theme really for the month ahead is going to be about, visionary kind of energy early on in the month. And then as you're getting into late January and we get into all the Aquarius stuff in your 10th, there is this career depth and transformation that's happening. And there's this realignment that's going to be taking place at the end of the month. So I encourage you guys to keep an open mind with all these planets in your ninth house. I think that this is about expansive possibilities of what you're learning, where you're traveling to, that's really going to help you anchor in deep into some of the career restructuring that'll happen in January and February. Now, I also think that if you're somebody who's into philosophy, publishing, if you're in the legal world, or if you just want to broaden your horizons, I think you guys are going to enjoy the first half of the month. We will see these conjunctions between Venus, not just with Mars, but we're also going to see it happening with the Sun. So you're going to see that on the 6th of January, the Sun-Venus conjunction will happen in your ninth house. And this is about big picture teaching or anything connecting to just feeling, I think, more inspired. And then you're going to see the Sun and Mars that are going to be moving side by side. And this is about taking courageous steps towards growth. And then we will see Mercury and Mars meeting on the 18th. And this is about sharpening your ideas when it comes to kind of like bold communication. And this is going to spark real inspiration. So opportunities for courses, trips, sharing wisdom, maybe shifting your worldview and like feeling that things are very exciting and kind of driven. Now you'll have a new moon on the 18th of the month. This will be happening in Capricorn in your 11th house. And this is going to be a new moon that is really potent because you're going to have all of these planets that are going to be conjunct the new moon. So it's a really good time for setting intentions around planning trips, adventures, what you're going to study, some kind of spiritual expansion taking place. Maybe you're launching writing projects or you're manifesting, anything revolving around growth when it comes to your belief system. Now, what you will notice happening throughout the month is that there's a very strong pull between the planets in your Capricorn ninth and Jupiter in Cancer in the third. And so the third and the ninth axis does bring up education. It brings up short and long distance traveling, writing, learning, anything revolving around like debates. And the themes are still Cancer and Capricorn. So it's about, you know, how you're communicating with your community or your siblings or your family versus people who are further away. It can also bring up short trips, changes to your everyday mindset and your local environment. Now you will see that there will be a full moon there at the beginning of the month in January around the 3rd. This can spark for a lot of you guys moving. Maybe you're going to be publishing something online, making changes to your vehicles. It can also represent some kind of connection to one of your siblings. And you'll find that, you know, January 9th through the 14th, these oppositions to Jupiter, everything feels exaggerated. So exaggerated thoughts, exaggerated conversations, or kind of daily exchanges. And maybe you feel that things are a little scattered. And you can also find yourself in some very heated debates, and also find that you're like over compromising in situations. Maybe it involves a sibling or some kind of, you know, dilemma that's going on with a neighbor. And that full moon is really highlighting on the 3rd of January, this kind of emotional culmination in communication and anything revolving around learning curves or, you know, intimate surroundings. And perhaps what you're going to find is that there's just like a release around how you express ideas and how you kind of connect and communicate with other people. Now, like I said, mid-month, we have all these planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the Sun, that then go into Aquarius. So by sign, this is squaring you guys, and you'll see, you know, late January into early February that there's going to be a number of squares, whether it's to Uranus in your first house or if you just have other planets that are kind of peppered in Taurus. And this is a superior square, so your career is really pushing you to evolve and change. There is some pretty dramatic changes that's going to happen with Taurus and Taurus rising's careers. Some of you guys are going to level up. Others are going to decide to say, you know what, I'm out of this job. I'm moving to a new company. Others are going to really have like a power up period. It really depends on what else is kind of happening in your chart. But I think that activation of your 10th house of your, not just your career, your reputation, right? Your authority, and also your public life, those Pluto conjunctions are going to be a lot. And on that 19th of January, you know, Venus is going to, you know, kind of soften yet intensify your personal power. And then on the 22nd, you're going to see, you know, Mercury coming into, you know, conjunction with Venus. There's going to be opportunities for like deep strategic planning. You're going to see the Sun come in and spotlight your 10th house on the 23rd. So it's putting an emphasis on your status. And then on the 27th of January, you're going to see Mars move into your 10th house. And this is going to be about assertive drive. Watch for like profound shifts in your direction. Maybe it's your role. Maybe you're getting more recognition out in the world. I do think those conjunctions to Pluto are very transformative. Yes, they can feel challenging, but ultimately they are very empowering. Taurus, listen to me. Next month, you're going to have an eclipse in your 10th house. And that's going to kick off what's going to be about 2 years of you guys just climbing up the social status ladder. So changes on the horizon. If you guys are avoiding making changes, changes are going to happen. If you're embracing making changes to your career, it could actually be a really big 2-year period where you're going to see some amazing things that are going to happen. And I think that with Uranus being kind of tied to your 10th house and it's in your first, some of you guys are getting restless and you feel like you need a professional change anyway. Watch for Venus trine Uranus on the 15th. I think that's going to be one of the better transits for the month. I also like when Mars comes into a trine with Uranus on the 19th. Personal liberation, especially when it comes to like your identity or self-expression. And it's also going to be tied to obviously growth and career breakthroughs because Uranus rules your 10th. Now, Neptune will be going into Aries, okay? So this is going to happen. You already had a preview last year. Now it's going into Aries. It's going to be there for some time, and it will be moving into your 12th house. So this is the house of subconscious healing. This is also about solitude. It's hidden matters, spiritual release. And I think it's really, I think for a lot of you guys, it would be beneficial, especially knowing that Saturn's going to go there next, to really start thinking about what am I doing in my alone time? And it's interesting to have Aries in the 12th house because I know a lot of Taurus and Taurus risings, they find a lot of healing through working out alone, right? Aries can be about being active. And Saturn and Neptune and Aries, to me, in the 12th house feels like a very kind of spiritual warrior vibe. Hot yoga, meditation, you know, getting into a regular meditation routine. Maybe this means that you are going to be exploring foreign lands. Maybe this means that you're becoming more kind of productive with your private or your alone time. Watch out for self-sabotage. That's the one thing that I would say with, planets moving through the 12th house. This is going to be a 14-year cycle that I think is going to bring you like fever dreams. And it's also about a lot of intuitive inner work and compassionate forgiveness and kind of healing behind the scenes spiritually. So your best days for the month are January 15th, where I will expect you guys to have some exciting personal insights and visionary connections. I love the new moon on the 18th in Capricorn in your 9th house. I think that this is, if you want to plan a trip, you want to go back to school, you want to start writing a book, you want to take courses, you want to have some kind of adventurous intentions when it comes to your career, this is when you do it. Make bold changes and feel like you're going to be a little bit more free to, go after the pursuit of knowledge and have, new opportunities. This will be taking place when Mars is trining Uranus on the 19th. And then on the 29th of January, you will see Mercury and Venus meet in your 10th house. So this is going to be harmonious expression, big ideas, especially anything that's creative or that involves children or art. And also opportunities for kind of financial talks and negotiations. Now, your most challenging days, and I think this is pretty much for everybody, we start the month off with Mercury in Sagittarius, and it's going to be at 29 degrees, and it's going to be squaring Neptune. So there could be some question marks revolving, how do I kind of connect with other people? Mercury Neptune squares bring up mental fog around like beliefs or plans. The January 3rd full moon for everybody is going to really highlight pretty much the theme, the first half of the month, of these kind of back and forth energies between Capricorn and Cancer. So it will bring up some peak emotions, but I feel like because Cancer is friendly for you guys, you're going to handle it pretty well. And then we're going to see that January 9th through the 14th where there is oppositions between the 3rd and the 9th. So it's over talking, over texting, over driving, feeling scattered in the mind, a lot of like back and forth going on with people locally. And then on January 27th, when Mars and Pluto come into conjunction in your 10th house, some reputational dilemmas is what I can kind of see. Intense career dynamic, some kind of pressure that's going on working with groups or within some kind of partnership. So my advice for you guys this month is really lean into broadening your horizons early in January. Use that new moon to concretely plan travel, maybe to start a course or have some kind of belief shifts, and really anchor into Jupiter's kind of like exaggeration with practical research in your 3rd house, maybe scheduling things better. Mid-month, Pluto is really demanding raw authenticity in your career. And this is about releasing outdated roles or fears when it comes to being seen or visibility. I think with Neptune kind of moving into your 12th house, you guys really have to prioritize rest. For some of you guys, it's going to be therapy or dream journaling or, like I said, meditation. Anything you could do to get more subconscious clarity. You just want to avoid escapism through overindulgence. And I think if you're steadfast and you're really focusing on, building your visions patiently, and you really trust some of the inner healing that's kind of going on behind the scenes, you guys are going to find that you're really emerging with like a renewed sense of purpose and also stability by the end of the month. All right, Taurus. Well, let's take a look. Let's see what the tarot says for you guys for the month ahead. What do you need to be aware of in January 2026? You guys get the Lovers card. All right. So, I'm just spitballing a little bit here. Venus is going to meet Pluto in the 10th house. Mars is going to meet Pluto in the 10th house. It's very obvious to me, Taurus, that there is some pretty big dramatic shift that's happening either with your social status. So that could mean, going from being single to being married, from being married to being single, from being an employee to being a CEO, to working as a partnership or a team, to there being a change, or even announcing that there is some kind of significant merger. I think that this Lovers card is talking about, that polarity, that energy of what you're seeing. It's about kind of bringing things and meeting in the middle. Mars and Venus is saying that a lot also in the 9th house with the conjunctions too, which can be really good for relationships. I think some Taurus and Taurus risings who are single might find somebody through traveling or through education. That's what I think. Or if you're, connecting with a teacher or a professor, or if you're traveling to go and visit someone, or you're going to a workshop or a seminar, you can meet someone and it could be like really significant. And so the Lovers card talks about options and choices. what it is that we're bringing into our life, what is kind of mirroring us, and also it's about temptation. And so there can be some temptation to suddenly dramatically quit your job, right? You could see that with some of the transits in your 10th house. There can also be this temptation to dramatically exit a relationship or make a change. But I think if you're choosing people who are kind of on your wavelength and people who feel that are meant to be here at this time, and if you don't have anybody, they're going to start showing up either in a professional or in like a romantic way. And I think that it's going to be about like divine partnerships and working together in a platonic way with, with career, in a romantic way with career as well. It could also mean that this is going to be a time where you're really asking yourself, am I capable of making this change? And I would look around and I would see who's supporting you through this transition. Is it a partner? Is it a therapist? Is it a best friend? Because there are people who are coming to kind of help guide you through the process of going through this pretty dramatic change. And obviously the Lover's card can be some very passionate kind of destined connections that are showing up for you guys this month. Taurus, I hope it's a beautiful month for you guys. I'm excited to see what happens. Definitely let me know in the comments, and I will catch you back here in February. Hey Gemini and Gemini rising, welcome to your January 2026 horoscopes. I hope you guys are well. I'm excited to be here with you. And obviously we're going to talk all things Mercury. So before I even get into all the other like little things, you can't see it because I can't move the wheel and draw on at the same time. I know I get lots of comments about that, but Mercury actually starts the very first day of the month in Sagittarius. So you and Virgo need to know that. And when Mercury is in Sagittarius, it is obviously kind of like debilitated there because it's in the opposite sign of Gemini. So Mercury going through Sag on January 1st in your relationship house is going to come into a square with Neptune in Pisces in your career zone. And this just basically means like misunderstandings about, whether or not you're connecting at work or connecting with relationships, some confusion as to what the new year holds and what's going to be changing with relationships or changing with your career. Not the best day to be like signing contracts, making agreements, taking on new jobs. I mean, it could also mean that there is some like missed information, missed emails, text messages, things like that. Misunderstandings also that can be taking place on the 1st. So I want you guys to just be mindful of that. After the 1st, Mercury is going to move into Capricorn. It's going to move all through Capricorn, and that's going to be going through your 8th house where there's going to be a heavy emphasis this month. And then you're going to see Mercury go into Aquarius, where I think it's going to fare a little bit better. And it's going to be in a fellow sister air sign. So you're going to see it trining some of your Gemini sun, moon, or rising placements. So as Mercury is moving through Capricorn, the 8th house is going to be a house that's about intimacy. It's about psychological matters. It's about joint finances, taxes, dealing with insurance, inheritance, debt, and it's also like your partner's money, or it deals with like banking. So I've seen a lot of Gemini and Gemini risings that are like suddenly coming into money at the end of the year. Some of them are getting a lump sum. Some of their partners are actually getting bonuses. And it can also mean that there is just this power up of receiving something from other people. Now, what you want to watch for is that it will oppose Jupiter in Cancer, as will a lot of other planets. At some point, and it looks like that's going to be happening around January the 14th. There can be on this day exaggerated deep thoughts or financial talks, and it will also come into conjunction with Mars on the 18th in Capricorn. This will, I think, kind of strengthen like some kind of psychological strategy. You can have a breakthrough also in therapy. And then you will see Mercury enters into Aquarius in your 9th house, and that's going to be the house that deals with your beliefs. It's about travel, it's about education. That'll happen on January 20th. And then on the 22nd, you're going to see Mercury come into conjunction with Pluto. Watch out for this one. Profound revelations or worldview shifts. Obviously, intense research maybe, or debates are possible. And then finally, you will see Mercury conjunct Venus on January the 29th in Aquarius. And I like that conjunction. I feel like it's harmonizing and expanding ideas. It can be a time where, you are meeting somebody while you're traveling, you're taking art or creative classes. Maybe you're contemplating or considering, planning a trip or relocating to another place. And this is really going to expand ideas for you. So the themes really this month, I think, are the first half of January is a lot of deep processing. The 8th house, in Capricorn, it has nothing in common with you. There's a lot of inconjuncts and quincunx to you guys. So it can mean that you're feeling like there is this like purge, or like there is this clearing out that's kind of happening. And Capricorn can be about your career. All of this is connected to Saturn. So it can mean there's big things that are kind of shifting with your career and like the money that you're making with a company or with another person. And I think it's really about then shifting later in the month to traveling, learning, feeling more kind of like philosophical intensity. And I think it's really important for you to keep your curious nature and to be clear this month. That's my advice. So January is really kind of plunging you into like this emotional, transformative depth with all that 8th house energy. And obviously, you know, some of the oppositions that you're going to see to Jupiter is going to make some of that stuff feel bigger. So the themes that kind of come with the 8th house can also be transformation. It doesn't mean that it has to be something scary. It can be something that's ending and it's bringing something new. There can also be a focus on sexuality or some kind of like sexual, some kind of psychological rebirth. And then you will see a lot of conjunctions that are going to be happening in this house. So like on the 6th, you're going to see the Sun-Venus conjunction happen in the 8th house. And this brings harmony to deep bonds or joint finances. Venus and Mars are going to meet on January the 8th, and that adds more passion and intimacy and also the potential for mergers. Sun and Mars are going to meet on the 9th, and that's fueling kind of your drive for personal change. And then Mercury and Mars are going to meet on the 18th. That's important for you because it's sharpening your financial or kind of psychological, mind. This will also intensify closeness with other people. It'll bring about themes revolving around trust and healing. And there are opportunities for kind of vulnerability and restructuring resources. This feels very potent. Now there will be a new moon that's going to be in this house on the 18th of January, and it'll be around 28 degrees of Capricorn. And this is really supporting powerful intentions for some kind of emotional rebirth. So investments, healing old wounds, deepening trust, applying for loans. These are the things that we kind of see under a new moon here. And obviously all month long, there is a strong kind of opposition between your 2nd house and your 8th house. You know, the 2nd house is money in the bank, money in your pocket, your possessions, your resources, your self-esteem. The 8th house is other people's money. So there's a lot of money themes going on with both the new and the full moon, but also the oppositions that are taking place. So January 9th through the 14th, one thing I would say for my Gemini risings is just watch for the risk of some kind of excess spending, especially with Jupiter retrograde. I would say be mindful of how much you're spending. There can also be like a lot of inflated value conflicts that can come up between you and other people. Maybe, watch for overconfidence in kind of worthiness issues. That can be another kind of theme. And certainly the January 3rd full moon that you're going to see in Cancer in your 2nd house is illuminating things that are connected to emotional culminations around income, security, self-esteem, and perhaps there's like a release that's somehow tied to material or kind of worth themes. Now, mid-month, when planets shift from Capricorn, where honestly it's like being in a cave, to Aquarius, where it's going to be light and airy and a little bit more free, I think you're going to enjoy this energy better. I think that when we see the 9th house get highlighted with themes of beliefs, travel, higher education, philosophy, the Pluto conjunctions can be a little intense. Maybe watch for that. You will see on the 19th of January, Venus will conjunct Pluto, and this can definitely bring some kind of major transformations in relationships that are unexpected, especially with people who might be foreign. We will also see on the 22nd, Mercury will come into conjunction with Pluto, and that's going to impact you because you're probably going to see that there's an intense debate or some issues or crisis revolving around your beliefs or travel. And then on the 23rd of January, we're going to see the Sun coming into conjunction with Pluto, and that's really putting a spotlight on your perspective about the world and what you believe about the world. Probably a lot of like global news and things that you're kind of paying attention to, I would assume. And then on the 27th of the month, Mars is going to come into conjunction with Pluto. And this is, courageous pursuit of truth, right? But it really honestly brings intensity in your perspective, or some drama with a legal matter, or, some kind of shift when it comes to where you're traveling or how you're traveling, or some kind of shift in regards to, Mars could be your work, it could be your schedule, it could be your health. And obviously Aquarius really wants liberation. So even though the Pluto conjunctions are rather intense, and yeah, you might get into, a heated debate with a teacher or a mentor, or there could be some, potential drama that's going on, with traveling. It is all trining you by sign. So if you're an early Gemini or Gemini rising, like 0 to, I would say, like 5 degrees, it is going to be a little bit easier for you guys to manage. Now, the trines that I like are going to be the 15th and the 19th, where there are going to be some trines to Uranus. Now, it's going to be from Capricorn to Taurus, so it's going to be more subtle, more behind the scenes, maybe a little bit more intuitive. And I think a lot of the Mercury trine Uranus is really going to be about liberating your subconscious, or bringing up some like hidden thoughts or things that have been kind of taking up some mental real estate. And I also think with Neptune coming into Aries, this is going to be interesting because we had a preview of this obviously earlier this year. It will be harmonious with your sign, especially if you have like early degrees of Gemini or Gemini rising. So like the first 0, I would say, to 5 degrees. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction next month, is sextiling you, and Neptune is coming into a sextile with you. A lot of 2026 is air and fire energy, so you're going to mesh well with a lot of the stuff that's happening because stuff's going to move very quickly. But obviously the 11th house deals with your friends. This is also, groups, aspirations, your community. That could be in person or online. And you need to watch out for, the theme over the next couple of years of kind of like idealizing social circles, right? And really it's also about building future dreams with the spiritual kind of like compassionate energy. Now, I think for a lot of you guys, and I've heard this from a lot of Gemini and Gemini risings, they're like, I am trying to make friends. I'm trying to get more socially acclimated. I am changing, big time my relationships with my social circles. And I would say get active. Aries is about being active. This can also be about opportunities over the next month or two to start kind of building with a team at work, because Neptune is tied to your 10th house. So you might be working with new people. As for the more, I think, beneficial days, other than that, watch for the 29th, where you're going to have Mercury and Venus that are going to be meeting in the 9th house. This can be harmonious kind of intimate relationships or resource talks. It can also give you the opportunity to kind of meet somebody while you're traveling. For the difficult days, like I said, on the 1st, when Mercury squares Neptune, maybe some confusion in how you're communicating work and relationship themes. January 9th through the 14th, for everybody, we're going to see these oppositions between Capricorn planets and Jupiter and Cancer. So this is watch out for like financial excess, value drama that's coming up. Obviously on the 27th, we also have to watch out for like the Mars-Pluto conjunction. That one can be a little bit more gnarly. And I think that there's going to be some drama around traveling and also around your beliefs and expansion. Personally, and like if you guys have been watching my horoscopes for a while, I'm always going to like keep it real with you. I'm not a fan of Gemini or Gemini risings traveling the second half of the month. Ironically, I would want to get Mars and Mercury and Pluto away from each other. I would want to wait until those planets are separating from Pluto. So maybe it's a little bit different, at the beginning of February, but I would not want to be traveling internationally or being on a plane or in the air when my chart ruler Mercury is conjunct Pluto, or when Mars is conjunct Pluto. So be mindful of that. My advice for you guys in kind of navigating this month is really just embrace psychological vulnerability. Yeah, I can feel a little uncomfortable having that many planets in your 8th house. I get it. Maybe use the new moon in Capricorn at the end of the month for really trusting deeper, or maybe restructuring shared resources thoughtfully, investing, financial planning, right? Looking at that stuff. And then mid-month, as you get into planets in Aquarius, just keep in mind that Pluto is really here to expand your philosophy in a very profound way. Maybe question old dogmas, do so courageously, because it's going to bring you some kind of growth. And with Neptune in your 11th house now, you want to seek soulful kind of communities and be mindful that there can be some idealistic goals that are coming up. Really use discernment when it comes to exactly who you're kind of supporting or who you're kind of aligning yourself with. I think that for the most part, you guys are pretty quick and curious. I think you're going to be able to kind of like really kind of adapt, and you'll be able to thrive. Just remember to communicate your boundaries clearly. And this is all about transforming fear into kind of intellectual strength, and really letting some of the revelations that kind of come up this month guide and move you forward. Gemini, let's take a look and see what the tarot has to say for you guys in the month of January. What does Gemini need to know? What is the advice that we can give them? Card that I got for you guys is the 4 of Coins, which I'm laughing because the 8th house is like, it's like F you pay me vibes, So it's like, I'm not going to be the one who's covering everything. I'm not giving it up. And the Four of Coins can represent where we're holding on to something so strongly, or we're holding somebody to something, or there is something that is expected financially and you're like waiting for it to come through and you're like, nope, I'm not going to give it up. And so that could be connected to Saturn stuff as well. Saturn is kind of the dispositor of all that Capricorn. So, you know, your job, your old ways of spending, old emotional blockages, where there is maybe some, like not resentment's not the right word, but maybe where there's some grudges, right? You're holding on to something. What are you holding on to, Gemini? This can also mean that you're really just being more conservative with your finances. There is a sense of you going, no, I'm not always going to just put something on the credit card, or no, I'm not just going to take out a loan, I'm going to pay something down, or really holding other people accountable for their end of the deal, right? And so it can mean that there is a sense of you just really rethinking and reevaluating your relationship with resources this month, and you're letting other people pick up the check, or you're letting your partner say, hey, I've got it, or there can be a total shift in your relationship with a bank, or in a personal or professional relationship. There's something that's kind of changing. And really the 8th house is here to help other people help you and say, hey, this is yours. We've got it. So don't be so quick to, I think, put up the cash, or don't be so quick to, be the person that's going to be paying for things. I mean, I don't hate to say that, but as much as I hate to say that, there is some reluctance right now to want to give away personal or financial power. And I would say the people who are coming in to help support you through this process, it can actually be a good thing. It can give you a lot more freedom, and it can also really help stabilize anything regarding your self-esteem. All right, Gemini. Well, good luck with January. Let me know what happens, and I'll catch you guys back here in February. Hey Cancer and Cancer Rising, welcome to your January 2026 horoscopes. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited to chat with you. You are one of the main characters for January of 2026. It's a really interesting kind of month for you guys. All of the signs are going to feel it, but I really feel like the cardinal signs in particular are going to feel some of the oppositions and the squares that are taking place. Now, as you know, the moon rules your chart. So we can't talk about this month without talking about the big, beautiful full moon that we're going to have on January the 3rd in Cancer. Now, I believe it's around 12, 13 degrees-ish. I'll have to double check that. I didn't put the degree here. Oh, maybe I did. Hold on. Where is it? You're like, just get to the point, Candace. Sorry. I want to make sure I have it for you guys because it's especially important for you guys. Full moon in Cancer. Yeah, it's 13 degrees. Okay, I should have just listened to my gut on that one. All right, so if you have anything around 12, 13, 14 degrees of Cancer, you have a full moon in your sign. This is a big deal for you guys because this is connected to seeds that you planted 6 months ago back in Cancer season. So in your first house where you're going to have this full moon on the 3rd, it's bringing your attention to your identity, your body, your appearance, and obviously the moon is also about your emotional tone. So some of you guys are going to feel like this is a day or two period where there's a major personal peak. Your feelings, your identity, your appearance, it kind of comes together in like a very big, beautiful way. Now, I think that with that full moon, it can also be highlighting for you a lot of emotions that are coming up in connection and correlation to relationships. And relationships are going to be a huge theme for you guys in January because we've got a whole stellium of planets that are going through the 7th house. And we will see oppositions that are taking place to Jupiter. So it's almost like the full moon around the 3rd is kind of saying, hey, there's going to be this back and forth kind of tug going on between your emotions, your feelings, and also potentially prompting travel and connecting with other people or long distance relationships, or maybe it's going to represent adjusting schedules and stuff so you can kind of meet people halfway. Now, we will also see on January 18th, there's going to be a new moon where the sun and the moon come together in Capricorn. That'll be around 28 degrees. So if you have anything in Cancer, 27, 28, 29, it's opposing you. And this is where we plant new seeds when it comes to fresh kind of relational intentions. We are also going to see that there is going to be just so many oppositions to Jupiter in your first house. Obviously, Jupiter represents your health, your schedule, your timing, your pets, your work. It's also connected to your beliefs and anything with travel. So you're going to kind of get pulled in two different directions. I think that those oppositions to Jupiter are really emphasizing balancing yourself and partnerships. And it's going to be easier said than done. So the themes for January in a nutshell are emotional kind of identity spotlights and nurturing yourself amid so much relational focus. Now, if you're a single Cancer or Cancer rising, things can get real good this month. Really good, because you're going to see conjunctions happening in your seventh of relationships. However, I think it's people who are far away, because this is all connected to Saturn. But it could also be your relationship with a therapist, and your relationship with an astrologer, your relationship with a teacher, a mentor, But I think that you'll be attracting people who may not necessarily be close to you. So really, January 2026 is putting this spotlight on relationships while also spotlighting your personal identity and your own emotional needs. You'll see that because Capricorn rules your seventh house, this can be about not just romantic, but also business relationships, close allies, open enemies. And we're going to see a lot of conjunctions. It's going to kick off on the 6th of January. We are going to see Venus coming into conjunction with the sun. And I think that can bring a lot of harmony and affection in relationships. And then Venus and Mars are going to conjunct on the 8th, and Mars rules your 10th house of career. It can also be about romance. Venus can be about home and family. It's possible that that conjunction is going to be a lot of passion, a lot of attraction, and then Sun will conjunct Mars on the 9th, and this is fueling some kind of potential commitment. Now, it can mean somebody wants you to work for them, somebody wants you to partner with them, somebody wants to, is pursuing you in a very passionate way. I think it's amazing, honestly. And it's really going to be driving, I think, conversations about commitment and feeling solid in a relationship. And then Mercury and Mars are going to come into conjunction, where people can be a little bit more assertive in relationships. So this is really about energizing dynamics, new connections. For those of you guys who are partnered, feeling revitalized by the bonds in your relationships, or potentially business collaborations that feel very driven. That new moon, I think on the 18th, is ideal for kind of intending to find more balanced, mature partnerships, or clarifying boundaries in existing relationships. So what we will then kind of see is that there's going to be a lot of oppositions taking place. So January 9th through the 14th, you're going to see a ton of planets like Mercury, Mars, the Sun, Venus, all kind of in opposition to Jupiter in your sign. So a lot of like other people's stuff, client stuff, relationship stuff, work partner stuff, and it's in opposition to you, and it's retrograde going like, can I take all of this on? Can I, change my schedule or accommodate other people? And it's possible that there can be a lot of like amplifying, ego tensions between self and others, and you have to really watch for risking overgiving or for there being kind of clashes. Things then dramatically change as we get to mid-month. Then we see this whole kind of parade of Capricorn planets leave your 7th house of relationships and go into Aquarius in your 8th house. And so the 8th house is the house that deals with intimacy. So it can be sexual stuff. It can be about shared resources. It can be about money. It could be about insurance, taxes, major, changes and transformations or purging happens. And all of these planets have to meet with Pluto. So then you'll see from January 19th through the 27th that this is really going to be about deepening vulnerability with others, maybe seeing some power balances, maybe there's some financial mergers that are happening and it's very intense. And then we will start to see planets that are actually in this house that are going to start forming some, better aspects in the skies as the month goes on. Watch for, I think, on January 15th and 19th, before things kind of get into intense like Pluto land, that planets in your 7th house are actually going to trine Uranus in Taurus, which means maybe there's more ease in partnerships. Maybe you guys are on top of joint goals. Maybe there's better self-expression. Maybe there's more kind of socializing and connecting with people. And then finally, we're going to see Neptune that is going to be coming into Aries again this month. Now, if you're a Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, if you have anything about 0 to 5 degrees, you're really going to be feeling the effects of not just Neptune entering back into Aries this month, but next month, we're going to have Saturn come back into Aries, and they're going to conjunct in mid-February. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But what you guys need to know right now is that Saturn and Neptune are going to be starting to come into a square with your ascendant, and it's going to be a superior square. If you're a Cancer rising, it doesn't matter what degree, if you're a Sun, Moon, or Rising, if you have anything 0 to 5 degrees, that's what I'm more focused on. And because it's a superior square, it means Saturn is applying pressure to you, your body, your emotions, how you express yourself. I think with Neptune going in there first, I would look back on what happened over the summer. What has shifted in regards to your career, maybe your purpose, your reputation, your public life, and think about what kind of started up. Some of you guys, ended a job, started a new job. Some of you guys went back to school. Some of you guys, I think with Saturn coming in there next month, are thinking more about, well, what do I want my reputation or my status to be? What do I want my relationship status to be? So it's not just career stuff. But on the 26th, Neptune moving into your 10th house is about really visioning your professional path with spiritual and inspired energy. However, if you're an early degree Cancer rising, both Neptune and then Saturn squaring means that you're entering into what I believe is uncharted territory. Some of you guys are realizing, I want to go back to school. I want to write a book. I, want to be more direct and assertive. And I would tell all of my Cancer risings, be the captain of your own ship. This is about telling people what you're going to do and really believing in the vision of what it is that you're building out in the world. Now, your best days are going to be January 15th, when you're going to see trines that are going to be happening from your 7th to your 11th house, which I think is like relationship surprises, which can be good. It can also mean there's good social opportunities, relationship kind of issues, kind of ease. I love the new moon in Capricorn, especially if you're a single Cancer or Cancer rising, to set intentions for powerful relationships, especially with that trine to Uranus. It looks like through socializing and meeting new people, you might connect with someone. I also really like the 19th, when we're going to see some trines that are going to be happening again from the 7th to the 11th house. And then on the 29th, we are going to see Mercury coming into conjunction with Venus in your 8th house. Now, I think even though it's in the 8th house, okay, it's like sweet and it's harmonious, but it can be bringing up like lots of money talks, or there can be some kind of good financial news, or there could be some kind of inheritance, or like some kind of like refund or return or something that you guys are getting. And it would probably be connected to either a sibling or a document. It can also be some of you guys are maybe making some changes with your transportation or a vehicle. So the most challenging days, okay, and the truth is that the full moon in your sign, even though it's going to be somewhat kind of close to Jupiter, conjunct Jupiter, it's a wide conjunction, but it's there, does make me feel like some Cancer risings are going to feel overwhelmed, especially when I think about how planets are going through the relationship zone. They're opposing Jupiter in your sign, so there's this relational tension, and then all of this is also coming into square with Chiron. It's almost like you feel like you're being pulled in relationship direction, but you're also not really sure about what direction you're going in with your career. You might feel like relationships are building up in some capacity, and you're like, yeah, but I'm still trying to figure work out. So the full moon can feel, very like personal, emotional intensity overload. And that January 9th through the 14th, when you see oppositions between the self and other people, watch for some of the ego clashes. Also on January 27th, Mars will come into conjunction with Pluto in the 8th house, which can be really sexy, really passionate, especially because Mars rules your 5th house. So it can be about a really intense kind of intimate connection, but there can also be lots of struggles going on with joint resources, other people's money, dealing with like debt. So my advice is for you guys, especially knowing that Venus will hit Pluto, the sun will hit Pluto, Mars will hit Pluto. I mean, everything's going to come into conjunction with Pluto. Like, you really want to be open to working with another person this month. And I don't care if it's with your spouse, if it's with a business partner, I don't care if it's working with a therapist, if it's talking to an astrologer, to really allow other people to help you go through this process of rebirth, which is really happening pretty much the second half of the month. And because Pluto rules passion, creativity, and children, a lot of it can be about healing childhood trauma, kind of healing the heart, being a little bit more heart-centered. And I would just say, focus on the balance. Don't let it become this me versus we, because I think it can be that very easily. And then there could be a lot of drama in relationships, which could lead to some like financial kind of drama. Maybe use the new moon to really reset your relationships with other people thoughtfully and set healthy boundaries. And then early in the month, when you have that full moon, this is the time to release old identity layers or like emotional baggage. It is possible with a full moon there that some of you guys may have a big glow up or a big change, or there's just a lot of focus on you and you're looking great and you're glowing. And like, obviously some Cancer and Cancer risings can also get pregnant, having a full moon, in the first house. And then obviously the drama that can kind of come from everything going into the 8th house of being like, oh, everything's changing. There's like a real merger happening. The other thing I would watch for is, mid-month, Pluto really, really, really wants to heal intimate depths, and it really needs you to be vulnerable, Cancer. So trust the process of that. I think between that and like Neptune moving, back into your 10th house, this is really about aligning your career with your soul purpose. And maybe you're still confused and maybe it's a little dreamy. You're going to have January and February to get real about your career when Saturn shows up. Try to ground your visions practically when it comes to your work. A lot of you guys might benefit from working with a mentor, working with a teacher or a coach. And obviously, continue to kind of protect yourselves, because I think you're going to be a little bit more sensitive this month than usual. So definitely nurture yourself first. And then we want to gradually kind of open up to growth and transparency with other people. So let's take a look and let's see what do the cards have to say for my Cancer and my Cancer risings for January of 2026. What do they need to know for the month ahead? Wow, I love this energy. I love that you get the Ace of Wands and you have Neptune and then eventually next month Saturn going into your 10th house. So it's basically saying fire, baby. And I think, we've been spoiled. I say this as a water sign. We've been kind of spoiled having had a lot of Capricorn in the beginning of the month. And then also there's been a lot of planets in Pisces and there's Jupiter in Cancer. It's just been very emotional and also kind of like slow moving, right? Uranus and Taurus. Lots of water and earth has been dominating the skies for some time now. 2026 is not going to be that energy. It is going to be quick, fast, thinking on your feet, opportune moments where you have to kind of strike while the iron is hot. And so I think that this is a month where there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of creativity. And the Ace of Wands is about planting new seeds and really thinking about where you see yourself going. And really it's about feeling inspired. And so a muse can show up this month that can make you feel inspired. A prominent teacher, a coach, a relationship that's really motivating you to like really bring about some kind of change. And the Ace of Wands does talk about changes happening with the fire months. And I'll tell you guys something, Capricorn season obviously is kind of like foreshadowing what we need to be working on before we get into Aries season. When we get into Aries season, February through April is going to be real for you guys, because it's going to be about being like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm a manager. Now all of a sudden, I'm having to work a completely different like occupation, or now I'm trying to figure out how to work for myself. You need to build a dream team right now. You need to have people around you who are motivating you and telling you, you've got this, you can do this. So that way you can really emerge and you can start to see those, those seeds that you're planting in the spring turn into beautiful flowers. I also feel like, the Ace of Wands talks about things moving very quickly. So some of you guys might feel like things are moving very quickly with business negotiations. Things are moving very quickly with potential partnerships or romantic relationships. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think with Venus and the sun and everything, this could be people who bring some sort of significant value to your life. And yeah, you might feel like things are moving very quickly, but receive. As you get into the end of January, receive as everything goes into your 8th house. Thank you. I will take that. I appreciate that, right? All right, so let me know what happens, Cancer. I hope this is a beautiful month for you and also a beautiful full moon. Definitely lots of relationship stuff. So I'm curious to see how the month ends. Let me know and I'll catch you guys back here in February. Hey Leo and Leo rising, welcome to your January 2026 horoscopes. I hope you guys are well. I'm excited to chat with you. Happy New Year. There's a lot going on. So obviously, I'm going to start by talking about what's happening with the sun. The sun is going to start January off moving through your 6th house of work, health, habits, and routine. I'm sure a lot of you guys are hitting the ground running with your New Year's resolutions, focusing on getting healthy, getting organized, taking care of business. And I love that for you. We will see that there are several conjunctions that are going to happen with the sun. So starting on the 6th of January, Venus and the sun are going to conjunct in Capricorn in your 6th house. And I think that this is about finding enjoyable habits. Could be reading habits, walking habits, writing habits, work habits. I don't care. It's about bringing a little bit more beauty into your routine and enjoying your workspace and your new health kind of goals. And then on the 9th, you're going to see Mars come into conjunction with the sun in Capricorn in your 6th house. Lots of energy, lots of effort, exalted. Obviously, Mars conjunct the sun. It means that you can get a lot of work done. Just keep in mind that we will also see oppositions to Jupiter in Cancer on the 10th, which I think can, for some of my Leo risings, lead to a little bit of burnout and overdoing it. And then after that, we will see on the 19th, the sun leaves Capricorn and it goes into Aquarius in your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. Now, the sun will conjunct Pluto on the 23rd. You want to watch for that because this is about a deep transformation and relational themes are surfacing. Major changes are happening in the relationship zone. It can be your relationship to someone, relationship to a friend. It can be about a dramatic transformation that's happening in a relationship and a major turning point regarding a relationship or home or family dynamic kind of, issue. And then you're going to find on the, let's see, planets will all come into conjunction with Pluto. So let me say this, even though it's not February yet, and as I said earlier in this video, next month we have eclipses, okay? So there will be a solar eclipse next month that's going to be in your 7th house of relationships. Kind of the prelude to what will be happening in the summer when the North Node goes into there. So I think you're one of the signs that's definitely going to start feeling the effects of the eclipses that are going to be coming in mid-February, where solar eclipses can bring some dramatic changes with relationships. We'll talk about it more in the future, but I want you guys to pay attention this month. This is a lot about me getting organized, focusing on health, productivity, getting some work done, and then meeting with other people and then being like, okay, now that I've gotten my affairs in order, what's going on in relationship land? Also, I think another important kind of piece of the puzzle is that we're going to see Neptune going into a fire sign. So Neptune's going to go back into Aries like it was earlier this summer, moving into your 9th house. If you have, 0 to 5 degrees of Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, Neptune's going to start trining you. Friendly energy for you for sure. Definitely watch for that towards the end of the month because this can be about really inspiring spiritual or kind of like adventurous beliefs. So kind of in a nutshell, January to me seems like this is about really diving into your routines, getting organized, focusing on getting work done early. And then as the month progresses and we get into late January and then eventually February, this is about partnerships, major changes with relationships, lots of transformation, lots of depth. And obviously you're ruled by the sun, so it's about kind of leading with the heart. So when we really break this down, we get into the nitty gritty. I think that I would start at the beginning of the month really focusing on refining my daily routines. We're going to see this is all about wellness before dramatic transformations that will then come in January and February in your one-on-one relationships. Now, Capricorn rules your 6th house. So it's not just about work and health. It could be about your daily habits. It could be about service. It could be about pets. And with those early conjunctions, like around the 6th when the Sun and Venus meet, maybe there's going to be more harmony and pleasure when it comes to your relationship dynamics with coworkers. And then on the Venus-Mars conjunction around January 8th, this is about adding more passion to tasks or fitness. And then the Sun-Mars conjunction on January the 9th is about fueling kind of raw energy for productivity. Great energy. You guys are going to get so much work done. And then you're going to see on the 18th of the month, Mercury and Mars are going to conjunct, and this is really sharpening your focus on details or work communication, and it'll boost efficiency. Watch for motivation to improve your health habits. I think this is also about enjoyment in service roles, helping other people. We will have a new moon that's going to be in Capricorn here on the 18th, and this is about planting new seeds when it comes to setting intentions around, sustainable health practices, finding a new job, getting a new office, getting organized, maybe pet-related goals. And this one really supports practical, long-lasting change, especially when it comes to scheduling. And then it's going to trine Uranus, so it's going to help you really kind of expand and kind of like update what's going on with your career changes, which I know you're still kind of going through. Now, one of the big themes that you're going to see is there is a lot of oppositions between planets in Capricorn in your 6th house and Jupiter in Cancer in your 12th house. So you got to be careful with the 6th and the 12th house axis. I'm a little bit more optimistic seeing the sun going through your 6th house that I feel like you guys can overcome issues with, with work or issues with health or problems with pets. But I'm also realistic, and I know that the 12th house is about your subconscious. This is about resting. It's about solitude. It's about hidden matters and spirituality and also sleep. So you will actually see at the beginning of the month, on the 3rd, there will be a full moon in Cancer where it'll be taking place in your 12th house, and it's going to illuminate what will be pretty much, like a 2-week period of just feeling like you're getting pulled between, sleeping and getting work done. And like, you really have to prioritize things and like set your schedule in a way where you're not burning yourself out. Now that full moon is about bringing emotional culminations from the subconscious in the 12th house. So maybe you'll have vivid dreams. There could be a lot of spiritual insight. Maybe you're releasing old fears. And then you will see that there is going to be oppositions that are going to be starting to kick up. And January 9th through the 14th is going to create some tension where you're going to see that you have a lot of driven routines and work and things that you need to get done, but it's really clashing with the opposition to Jupiter. And it means that, you know, maybe you do need to kind of take a step back. You need to, you know, retreat a little bit. Maybe you're risking burning yourself out. Maybe there's hidden stress. Maybe you're overworking because you're avoiding your feelings. So use that full moon to kind of see where that energy is kicking up. And then when we get to mid-month, the energy actually really starts to change. We're going to see that planets are going to start leaving your 6th house and going into your 7th house, which is the opposite sign of you, Aquarius. So it's relational. 7th house is your therapist, your astrologer, your one-on-one relationships. Aquarius can be friends. 7th house can be, you know, marital partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, committed relationships though, ones that are serious. And obviously every single planet is going to have to meet Pluto there. So Pluto rules your 4th house of home and family. So I think it's a lot about confronting and dealing with relationship issues and what you've been holding on to, or stuff that's been kind of, you know, stirring in your soul, or maybe where there's been some dissatisfaction going on with a family relationship or a living situation or a roommate, and maybe dealing with stuff that's kind of coming up from the past. Now, you will see that Venus will come into conjunction with Pluto there around the 19th. And that can bring up some power struggles for sure, especially in kind of appeasing a relationship and also figuring out where you're going with your career. It will intensify relational power. And then Mercury will come into conjunction on the 22nd of January with Pluto, really providing the opportunity to have some really deep, honest talks with another person. And then the Sun is going to come into conjunction with Pluto on the 23rd, spotlighting your commitments. Now, Mars will come into conjunction with Pluto on the 27th. This is assertive, confrontational energy. My goodness, Leo. I mean, this stretch, it profoundly shifts dynamics. Power balances will surface in relationships. Commitments will deepen or they will break. And transformative truths will be emerging when it comes to your one-on-one relationships. This is all because you're getting ready to see an eclipse there next month. And then the North Node is going to be there over the summer. Now, certainly it can be, for those of you guys who are single, about kind of overcoming fears of relationships and stepping into wanting to collaborate with other people. Others are just going to look at their relationships and go, wow, my partner's really going through something. Like, how can I be there for them? You know, and how is it kind of like impacting our relationship? Watch for Venus trine Uranus on January 15th, where Venus will be first in your 6th house, and then it's going to trine Uranus to your 10th house. I think this is going to bring exciting and liberating surprises in your daily life and maybe sudden freedom through your routines. And then you're also going to see, like I said, there is going to be that Neptune ingress into your 9th house, trining you if you're like 0 to 5 degrees over the next year or so. And this is the house that deals with traveling, higher learning, philosophy, spirituality, publishing. And I think that from January 26th forward, really what you're launching is now a 14-year cycle of feeling more inspired when it comes to exploring. Maybe it's about intuitive beliefs. Maybe it's dreamy adventures. Maybe it's spiritual teachings. And your worldview becomes a little bit more visionary and compassionate as a result. Now, I think your best days are going to be on January 15th when you see Venus trine Uranus for fun surprises when it comes to work, health, and your routines. I like the new moon in Capricorn for you because you're ruled by the sun and it's in your 6th house. So it's a great time to really plant seeds when it comes to new health habits, wellness intentions, getting new pets, getting into a new office, sticking to a schedule. I also like the 19th when Mars trines Uranus. I think that's a lot of the same thing, and you'll see there's energized breakthroughs in some of your routines at work. And then on the 29th of January, you will see Mercury conjunct Venus in your 2nd house. And that could be smooth, loving partnership communication, maybe kind of smoothing some stuff over after some of the drama that happened with the Pluto conjunctions, meeting somebody who you're really interested in. Great for also financial kind of negotiations. However, difficult days, and I said this for some of the signs, but not all of them. The month starts off with Mercury actually in Sagittarius on January 1st, and it's going to come into a square with Neptune. That to me feels like there's miscommunications in regards to matters of the heart, maybe taking risks, anything revolving also around romance or children. I do think that I would really watch that full moon in Cancer on the 3rd. It may surprise you. You may feel like you're just totally zapped out and you need like a lot of rest. And definitely watch from the 9th through the 14th when we're going to see oppositions that are taking place between, your 6th and your 12th house. And this is about just hidden overload, hidden emotions, feeling burnt out. And I would also watch the Sun-Pluto conjunction and the Mars-Pluto conjunction that's going to be happening in your 7th house, where there are some intense relational power struggles that will likely surface. My advice for navigating this month is like, number one, Leo, channel your natural charisma into really kind of refining your daily life. Like, I like the 6th house because you get into the routine. It's like, this is what you do before you go on a first date or a job interview. You brush your teeth, you get ready, you get organized, you clean yourself up, you look in the mirror, and then you get ready to meet other people. You have to get some of your stuff in order before you can deal with other people's stuff. And my advice is to use that new moon to really commit to new habits that are going to make you feel more radiant and strong. But also you have to kind of honor that Jupiter opposition that's just like, hey, you have to schedule real rest. You have to schedule downtime or alone time. And possibly, mid-month when the Pluto transits are demanding raw honesty in partnerships, face those power dynamics head on. If you do so, even though it's scary, it can actually allow you to go deeper in a relationship. And I think with Neptune kind of settling in your 9th house, it gives you the opportunity to incorporate inspired learning. So books, courses, travel plans. Just stay a little discerning about gurus. Watch for kind of clinging on to like new beliefs too much. And obviously prioritize your self-care and really focus on kind of rebuilding your schedule and your routines this month. I think it's really going to help you shine a lot brighter. So with that being said, let's take a look and see what the cards have to say for my Leos and my Leo risings. What do they need to know for the month ahead? What does the tarot have to say? Oh, I love this. You get the Chariot card, which, by the way, is associated with Cancer. So it is really kind of saying, pay attention, pay attention. And I said this to a couple of the signs, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. I think Jupiter retrograde in your 12th house means you still need time to play, you need time to create, you need time to reflect intuitively, emotionally. Lots of action and headway maybe at home or involving moving, traveling, relocating, or discussing some of these things, or, hey, what are our plans? Where are we going forward? I think with Aquarius being the future and the 7th house is relationships, you're kind of getting things in order and then you're like, okay, what are we doing? What's the plan? And a lot of it can be family themes, or it can be about, how you're tackling some, relational stuff and like how you're going to be handling things at home. And I think that the Chariot card means that you need to get your ducks in a row, because if you don't, things feel kind of chaotic. And if you let your schedule run away with you this month, yeah, you're not going to get good sleep. And then you're probably going to be finding yourself a little burnt out. And then it's going to be even more difficult for you to relate to other people. And you're not going to be able to show up for other people the way that you need. Changes with vehicles, changes with home, family matters. That seems to be the big theme. And I think really, I would like you to use the Cancer new moon to just rest, the Cancer full moon to rest, the beginning of the month. Because I think that may provide you with some insight, or maybe make you realize like, wow, I haven't gotten a good night's sleep, and 2 or 3 days of just sleeping better. Like now I feel like I can kind of like produce and do more, and you'll realize that you actually need that, because it's going to impact and it's going to allow you to better connect with other people. I think you're going to be a little less like crabby. I think it's also going to give you the opportunity to feel like you have really strengthen your routine. So when some of these relational changes come up end of January into February, you're ready for it and you can kind of, know what the game plan is. But I think some of you guys are like, where are we going? Where are we moving? Or like, what's next? Now that we've dealt with the move, if that's already happened, what's next with the relationship? So much relationship stuff in the next month. So if you're in a partnership, buckle up. If you're not, then this is a time where there could be some really prominent people who could start entering into your life. Okay. Get those ducks in a row, Leo. I hope that was helpful, and I will be seeing you guys back here in February. Hey, Virgo and Virgo rising. Welcome to your January 2026 horoscopes. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited to chat with you about what is happening this month. I'm going to talk about all things regarding Mercury. So we do have some cool stuff happening. There's going to be some Mercury conjunctions. We're also going to be seeing some Mercury trines. We're going to see Mercury that's going to be moving through technically 3 signs, but it's really only going to seem like 2. The month actually kicks off with Mercury in the last degree of Sagittarius on the 1st in your home zone, and it's coming into a square with Neptune in Pisces in your 7th house of your relationships. So Watch on January 1st for some misunderstandings or miscommunications between family and relationships, or where maybe you're prioritizing family and a relationship where a partner feels kind of slighted, or vice versa, okay? And it's at 29, so it means that there's so much focus and communication with what's going on in the family. You know, partner's just like, did you hear me? Are you listening? What's going on? Or, you know, there is some kind of getting lost in translation with each other and confusion in regards to where family matters are taking priority over relationship matters. And there could be some drama that could come up from that. Not a good communication day, not a good travel day, by the way. After that, you're going to see, you know, throughout the month, then Mercury is going to move through Capricorn, fellow sister Earth sign. So it'll be trining you in some capacity, which you'll like. And it's moving through your 5th house, where there's going to be a lot of energy this month. And basically, it's moving through a house that wants to create. It wants to date. It wants to play. It wants to focus on romance. It wants to focus on hobbies. And we are going to see that there will be not only some conjunctions happening in the 5th house, which is going to amplify that, but it's going to oppose Jupiter in your 11th house of friends, goals, and allies. And then, you know, that's going to feel almost like it's exaggerating some of these creative, artistic, romantic, children-related kind of ideas. And on the 18th of the month, we will see Mercury and Mars come into conjunction. And that's about a very passionate kind of sense of expression. And then finally, on the latter end of the month, we're going to see then Mercury enter into Aquarius, where it's going to be moving into your 6th house, where it actually doesn't mind being. It can really focus on health, habits, routines, structuring your day-to-day. And we will see on January 20th that happens. And then you have to watch for January 22nd. You're going to see a Mercury-Pluto conjunction, which is really bringing up major shifts in your routines or your wellness thinking, maybe some drama with an employee. You got to keep an eye on your health as well as your health of your pets. And that can also be where there is a pretty significant change at work taking place. And it could be more like technological, right? Or systems. And then I also notice on the 29th of the month, we're going to see Mercury and Venus conjunct in your 6th house. And that can mean that there's, you know, better health habits, there's good organization with finances, there could be love, maybe even in the workspace, and just more harmonious kind of daily communication. So actually, I think, you know, the earth signs are really going to dig the first half of January. I think for the most part, you know, it feels like there's a lot of joyful kind of mental sparks the first 2 or 3 weeks of the month. Even though it seems like a little like overdoing it in the social zone, and then you shift in late January into February, it's going to be more about disciplined transformation. I think it's going to be about refining things with clarity and really getting organized. So let's get down to the nitty gritty and let's see kind of like what's happening throughout the month and the transits that I think are going to be the most prominent for you. Probably, you know, kicking off the month with just this huge emphasis in your 5th house. I mean, my God. I mean, if you're a Virgo or Virgo rising, certainly love is in the air, okay? And if it's not, then you're looking for it. And it can also mean that you're in love with a hobby, that you're in love with, you know, a creative sense of expression, that you are really focusing on children, you're really focusing on having fun and playing. And obviously Capricorn in the 5th, playtime and romance has to feel like work. You have to make time for it. You have to commit to it. And all of this is building off of Saturn, which is kind of sextiling, and it's in your 7th house. So maybe relationships are getting tested through, you know, learning to kind of have date nights or spending time together or talking more seriously about the future or things that involve like children or family, right? 5th house. So I do think that I would watch for some of the early conjunctions. So you're going to see a lot of planets that are conjuncting each other, conjuncting the sun in the 5th house. And on the 6th of January, the sun and Venus are going to conjunct. And I think this is bringing harmony and affection, maybe love, maybe an artistic project. And then on the 8th of January, you're going to see Mars and Venus conjunct. This is a good one. This is all about passion and flirtation and maybe creative projects that are starting up. On the 9th, you're going to see the sun conjunct Mars, fueling bold creative drive. And then on the 18th, you're going to see Mercury and Mars conjunct in your 5th house, where there's sharp ideas, playful debates, and also themes involving kids. Now, it can spark fun, obviously, heartfelt expression, and lots of, I think, romantic sparks or rewarding time with children or with your hobbies. And then you're going to have a beautiful new moon in Capricorn in your 5th house, around 28 degrees, which will trine Uranus. So it's great for traveling. It's great for taking courses with hobbies. And this is really ideal for, I think, seeding new creative ventures. Maybe it's good for new romantic beginnings, getting out there and meeting people again, or just getting into something that feels more joyful in terms of your daily habits. And it's really supporting like authentic, grounded pleasure. Also, if you're like a Virgo or Virgo rising that wants to launch a business, or if you're wanting to get pregnant, or if you're wanting to focus on any kind of like inner child or healing stuff, this is a new moon that you want to focus on. Now, obviously with astrology, there's always something coming, right? So there's always a catch. And so what you'll find is all of these planets moving through your 5th house, which feels very fun and joyful, is opposing Jupiter in your 11th house. And obviously Jupiter rules your home and your family. So you might be going, well, I'm creating and I've got the kids, but I also feel like I need to go out into the world, or I need to, go to parties or celebrations, or I need to be meeting with other people. So you feel a little stretched. And these oppositions, to Jupiter in your 11th house could be your friends. It could be your goals, your community, your aspirations. And it's going to be very strong from January 9th through the 14th. Now, it's possible that there could be group drama. There could also be just way too many social plans on the horizon and your hands are kind of filled with kids or with other things. And you're really focusing on your future goals, and you really want to watch for risking overcommitting yourself, because there could be a lot of like friendship tension kind of pulling you away from personal joy. So for example, Jupiter in the 11th could be the friends that having the birthday party and, you're like, I'm going to be there. And then you're just like realizing like, wow, I just have too much going on with my kids. I can't do it. And like you let a friend down and they were hoping you were going to be there. And so you're kind of going, well, I'm kind of, occupied, or I'm obligated to have all this responsibility because it is Saturn. And it could also just mean that there's just too much of a good thing, too much fun, too much partying, right? That can happen as well. I do think that some of the oppositions mean that it's pulling you away from your personal joy too. So you're like, I would much rather be, doing this hobby I'm fixated on, or I'm getting ready to launch my business. And friends are like, well, you said you were going to be there. And so you kind of get pulled in two different ways. I think the full moon, that's going to happen in Cancer at the beginning of the month around the 3rd is really highlighting this, because it's going to show that the moon is in your 11th house and it's going to oppose the sun in your 5th. And it's going to show that opposition that's going to play out for like about a week or so. And that full moon is emotional culminations that's happening in your friendships, your networks, your long-term goals. Perhaps there's a release around like belonging. It could also be a good time for a family party, a gathering, a celebration. A friend might be announcing that they're getting married, or that they bought a house, or that they're having a baby. So there could be like lots of like domestic themes that are kind of connected with friends and community. Now, you are going to see these oppositions are really strong from the 9th through the 14th. So watch that. And then as we get into mid-month, then planets start moving into your 6th house. So then it starts going into Aquarius, which obviously is the house of work. This is about your coworkers, your daily routine, your office space, your health, your habits. It's about being of service. And so you will see now planets start coming into conjunction with Pluto, and Pluto represents your mind or communication. So my thought is that when this happens, first Venus conjuncts Pluto. So this is going to be about, well, all right, do we have, beauty in our daily tasks? Or is there some kind of, issue with a female relationship at work? Then we're going to see Mercury conjunct Pluto, and this is about strategic planning for you. This is also a time to watch your health, particularly anything connected to your nervous system, your ankles, your lower legs, your calves. Then we're going to see on the 23rd, the sun will come into conjunction with Pluto. Focus on wellness. It could be a day where you're feeling a little under the weather, and maybe you're realizing that there's something that you kind of like need to kind of scale back on. So you're not overworking yourself. And then watch for Mars coming into conjunction with Pluto on the 27th of January in your 6th house. This could be some like difficulties in communications with people at work, profound changes, in your job, in your office, in your habits. And also your body is very possible. And I really feel like this is about transformative commitment to better systems, improving systems. I do like when Venus trines Uranus on the 15th. Venus will be in your 5th house, and that could be about spontaneous travel, or kind of getting out and doing things, or learning something new, or taking like an art class. Then you're going to have Mars trine Uranus, and that's going to be happening around the 19th. And that's really just about kind of like liberating you creatively, or maybe romance and exciting surprises that are kind of happening. And obviously Neptune will enter back into Aries this month. So I'm sure you guys are going to be glad to say goodbye to Saturn and Neptune. So congratulations. As of this next month, you guys are done with your Saturn Neptune kind of oppositions and squares. Obviously the North Node is still in Pisces, but I think there's some real kind of definitive turning points that are going on with relationships this month, as Neptune is actually leaving your 7th house and it's going into the 8th. So what I would watch for with that is the 8th house deals with intimacy, shared resources, transformation, psychology, and really it's starting a new 14-year cycle where it's going to be about spiritual depth and closeness, maybe intuitive healing around trust, compassionate merging. But the truth is like, can you trust your partners with money? You know, is there potential fraud going on a credit card? Is there some kind of issue going on with being able to feel vulnerable and like trusting another person? And next month in February, Saturn will also come into that house. And a lot of it's going to be about dealing with debt, taxes, loans, joint funds, resources. And you're going to see that there can be some tightness with other people's money. And we'll get into that, as we get into February next month. But the 8th house also deals with some heavier topics like death, for example, right? Not necessarily you, but the things that end, the people that leave, and what becomes regenerated. And so I've been thinking a lot about how Aries is the self for Virgo risings. Saturn and Neptune can be like this, finally facing emotionally or psychologically themselves and going through a deep internal kind of change. And actually when Saturn and Neptune conjunct in February, Mars is going to be the ruler, and Mars will be hanging out in Aquarius in your 6th house. So I feel like it's about changes in your habits that can actually come through, therapy or psychological kind of release. It could also mean that some of you guys are going to be experiencing some really, really profound shifts emotionally or psychologically if you're more physically active. And the eclipses are going to kind of say a lot of the same things. So it's a good time to get into like a new routine. Anyway, most challenging days will be January 1st, where Mercury and Neptune are square and there's some misunderstandings or miscommunication between relationships and family. Watch for that. I think that the full moon in Cancer you're going to do okay with, because for the most part, Cancer is friendly. It does sextile you, so I don't really see any issues there. Also, we're going to see just that January 9th through the 14th, those oppositions where there can be too much excess and it just brings up some kind of drama. And I would say watch for the Mars-Pluto conjunction and the Mercury-Pluto conjunction in your 6th house towards the end of the month, where there's intense work and some kind of health pressure. Virgo. My advice for you guys is to really indulge in play and self-expression, dating, having fun early in the month. Use the new moon in Capricorn to really see new projects or connections that light you up, but set gentle limits on social obligations. Now, mid-month, Pluto is going to demand a lot of discipline, transformation in your routines. This is about embracing changes that align the body and the service with a deeper purpose. If you've been wanting to quit a bad habit, quit smoking, quit negative thinking, all of that stuff, it's a good time to do it. And keep in mind that now that Neptune's in your 8th house, it'll soften boundaries and intimacy, and it'll make you a little bit more compassionate, but protect against merging too fully or financial illusions. There can be some financial scams and things that are kind of coming up. I think that because you're super analytical, I think that you're really great with details. You're really going to be allowing some of the magic and the joy in. And then as you kind of segue to the end of the month, you'll be able to balance service to self and others in a very different and dramatic way. All right, so let's see what the tarot has to say for my Virgos and my Virgo risings. What do they need to know for January of 2026? What does the tarot want us to know? Wow. The card that I get is the Three of Cups, which is interesting. Okay, because I feel like there's a couple triple conjunctions in your 5th house. I mean, certainly I've been talking to Virgo risings that I feel like are finally coming out the other side of what's been some very difficult years in relationships, and now they have a lot to celebrate. And so that could be one interpretation. The other interpretation I have is that if you're kind of feeling like a relationship is on the fritz and you want to see what else is out there and you're contemplating connecting with other people, this may be the time that you make that move. But this is also about celebrating and being with other people, right? Three of Cups, they're all dancing, they're bringing in the harvest. So that full moon should be beautiful at the beginning of the month. I think you guys are going to love it. There's probably going to be a big gathering, a party, you're connecting with people, and it just feels like friends or family. I also wonder if there's going to be some threes of crowd energy this month. Especially with like Mercury and Venus and Mars meeting in the 5th house. It's like you may find yourself saying to somebody, if you're not interested, somebody will be, you know? And if Saturn and Neptune is not making you feel fulfilled in relationships, what this is really telling me is that you need true connection. You need romance, you need passion, and you need somebody who wants to have fun. And I know that that can be hard if you've got Capricorn in the 5th house, but you need to see other people doing their due diligence and making you feel loved. And if you're not feeling that, then you need to give that to yourself this month. Otherwise, there may be some potential third-party energy or other people that are coming in that might try to wine and dine you or be interested and potentially kind of steal you away. But nevertheless, enjoy celebrations. Go to the parties, do that early in the month. Enjoy being with other people. But then you're going to get to the end of the month and you might be like, wow, too much partying, too much eating, too much drinking, like need to kind of cool it. And then you're going to get a little bit more serious about your routines at the end of January. Virgo, I hope it is a beautiful month for you guys. Definitely let me know what happens. I'm excited to see what manifests for you. Certainly, I think you have one of the more fun kind of horoscopes for the month. And I'll catch you back here in February. Hey Libra and Libra rising, welcome to your January 2026 horoscope. I hope you guys are well. Excited to connect with you again. Happy New Year. We are going to be talking all things relating to Venus, and then we'll get into all of the other transits for the month ahead. So Libra, you guys are actually starting the month with Venus moving through Capricorn in your natal 4th house, which obviously is dealing with your home, your family, anything that is connected to property, real estate, and relatives, kind of your private life. It's the bottom of the chart. And you've been kind of working through some of this stuff since December in this last month, where there's just been more of an emphasis and a focus this month. Now, what you're going to see is Venus is going to be in 2 signs this month. First, it's going to start in Capricorn, and then it's going to move into Aquarius, which is a fellow sister air sign in your 5th house. And it's going to make a number of aspects this month. So probably what I'd be most focused on first is the Sun-Venus conjunction, the Mars-Venus conjunction. And then we're going to actually see some trines from your 4th house Venus to Uranus in your 8th house. So what does this look like? Well, first of all, on the 8th of January, you're going to see Venus coming into conjunction with Mars. And Mars rules your relationships. It also rules your values, your self-esteem, and your money. So I'm predicting for my Libra risings, lots of passionate domestic energy, maybe renovations, maybe property themes, improving homes, looking at buying homes, and maybe having family come and stay and visiting with you, or you going and staying with family, because obviously you're Venus. Now you're also going to see Venus trine Uranus. That'll be on the 15th. That's going to be really bringing for a lot of you guys, you know, lots of liberating home surprises. It can be good financial, positive trends. It can also be changes revolving around romantic relationships, and creative hobbies, as Uranus rules your 5th. Surprises involving children, that could be another theme. And then it's going to be coming into conjunction, obviously, with Pluto when it goes into your 5th house. So on the 5th house themes, on the 17th, you're going to see Venus leave Capricorn in the home zone, go into the 5th house, which rules romance, creativity, hobbies, children, the themes connecting to pregnancy. And obviously self-esteem is kind of tied to Venus, but it can also mean that you're participating in more things that bring you joy. Artistic projects, you know, if you're self-employed, it can be about self-employment and taking risks. So if you're a single Libra or Libra rising, this can be good in the relationship department, getting out, mixing and mingling and meeting people. And if you're in a relationship, this can mean that you are just approaching having more fun in your relationships. Now, it will conjunct Pluto on the 19th. So Libra, this is intense. Pluto does rule your values and something that you really want or that you want to possess, or anything involving taking risks with investing or gambling or the stock market. So be careful here, because the Venus-Pluto conjunction can also bring a little bit of intensity or jealousy in relationships, or some drama with children. Maybe some artistic power emerges for you. And then on the 29th, we're going to see Venus and Mercury are going to come into conjunction in your 5th house, which really sweetens, I think, like playful expression. If you want to take courses or classes on artistic things. If you're wanting to plan a vacation or a getaway, it can be good for that as well. And I really think overall the theme of January for you guys is that early in January, you are kind of picking up on where you left in December, and there's more focusing on family relationships, home, and kind of getting rooted in harmony early in the month. Then as we shift into the end of January going into February, it's more about passion, depth, and creativity. And I think really it's going to be all about balancing beauty and intensity this month. Now, January 2026, really, I think a lot of this Capricorn energy for some Libra and Libra risings can feel like you are creating your fortress, okay? Maybe you're working on home projects, maybe you're working from home, maybe there is just a lot more of, family kind of igniting some kind of, changes in your life. And it needs to happen before Venus goes into your 5th house, where it can be much more about creativity and kind of dating. Anyway, something that you're going to feel, because there's a lot of cardinal energies in the skies, Libra, is that all of this Capricorn stellium in your 4th is squaring your sun, moon, or rising in some capacity, especially if you're anywhere between 15 and 29 degrees of Libra, sun, moon, or rising. We are also going to see that the 4th house deals with roots, your inner security, your private life. And I think that you'll see a whole pepper of conjunctions other than the ones that I already mentioned. So that Sun-Venus conjunction on the 6th, really about domestic matters. January 8th is going to be passion around home and family. The Sun and Mars are going to come into conjunction on January 9th, which is really driving security changes at home. And then on the 18th, you're going to see Mercury and Mars coming into conjunction in your 4th house, which is direct talks with relatives. I think that you're going to be focused on kind of feeling more energized when it comes to nesting. So like I said, some of you guys are maybe improving family bonds. Some of you guys are looking for a new home, and really focusing on your emotional foundational work. Now, there will be a new moon that's going to be in this house at 28 degrees on January the 18th. Strongly in your 4th house is perfect for setting intentions revolving around finding a home, selling a home, family healing, finding inner peace, and it's really supporting deep-rooted stability. Now, one of the challenges that we're going to see for everyone, but really for the cardinal signs, is that there is this opposition between the 4th and the 10th house. And this is kind of funny because the life of a Libra rising is like a little inverted, right? You've got Cancer in the 10th house, which is usually kind of 4th house themes. And Cancer deals more with your reputation, your career, your status, what you're doing out in the world, what you're nurturing. And Capricorn is going to deal more with kind of like the heavier home and emotional or family vibes. And you're going to get pulled in 2 different directions this month, Libra. And it's also going to be squaring Chiron in your 7th house. So actually, Libra risings, you guys will be experiencing some kind of grand cardinal cross at some point. That the actions that are taken either emotionally or in the foundations of your life are really pushing you to overcome challenges and obstacles in relational healing. It's asking you to kind of reflect on how much work is too much work. Do you need more time with your family? And it's going to square you, so it's going to test whether or not you can keep the balance and also maintain diplomacy. Now, even though I know this sounds like a lot, I feel like it can actually be quite positive. You just want to really look at, the full moon that we're going to have on January the 3rd, which will take place in your career zone. And this is really going to highlight what you've been working on for the last 6 months when it comes to your career and your status, what you've been building towards. Some Libra and Libra risings are going to change jobs, they're going to launch businesses, they're going to have a lot of career success, they're going to see some kind of breakthrough emotionally revolving around their professional standings and their public life. However, that full moon is setting the stage for the oppositions which will take place between all of these planets in your home zone, Mercury, Mars, Sun, and Venus, to Jupiter in your career house. And so you will actually see those oppositions pretty much from about January the 9th through the 14th. This will create tension. It's going to show you where there's private needs that are kind of clashing with your professional demands. I would say, are you risking work spilling into home or public pressure? Because that can be kind of coming up. Probably with that full moon on the 3rd, it's going to be illuminating how you feel about what you're doing for work. And even though it can bring you recognition or some kind of public release, it's going to be saying it doesn't come without an immense amount of work and stress on you emotionally, or feeling that you're just kind of trying to balance things like on the home front, which can seem overwhelming. The good news is that the energy changes pretty dramatically when we get to the end of January. You're going to see that there are a ton of planets that are now moving into Aquarius in your 5th house. And so this is a fellow sister air sign, Libra and Libra risings. These planets moving into the 5th house will be trining you, and that means that there is going to be a little bit more airiness. Things are going to be a little bit lighter. It's also going to be a little bit more detached and creative and fun. So the 5th house deals with romance. It deals with children, creativity, playtime, dating. The only thing you need to watch for is that these planets will come into conjunction with Pluto in the 5th house. And so this can mean that you're taking more creative risks, you're taking more risks when it comes to your love life, when it comes to your self-expression, creativity, and there can be some intensity revolving around these themes, especially financially with Pluto. Now, you will see Venus come into conjunction with Pluto on January 19th. Likely some kind of intense attraction, sudden romance, something gets sparked in you or you become obsessed with something or someone. You will also see on the 22nd of January that Mercury will come into conjunction with Pluto, which can bring about some really deep-seated creative ideas. And then we will watch the Sun come into conjunction with Pluto on the 23rd, which is putting a spotlight on your joy. And on the 27th of the month, Mars will come into conjunction with Pluto, which I think is going to be a passionate pursuit. But still, the 5th house can bring some kind of personal drama. So love or expression becomes transformative. It becomes powerful and obviously very theatrical, if you ask me. Now, I'm kind of digging when Venus goes through Capricorn before it moves into the 5th house. It's going to actually form a trine to Uranus in your 8th house of joint income. And then we will also see Mars trine Uranus as well. So there can be lots of liberating domestic surprises, freedom at home, freeing yourself of, maybe joint lending or borrowing. There could be mortgage themes, inheritance themes, windfalls that can come through property, family, or real estate as well. Now, obviously, the big news for you, Libra, is also that you're going to see Neptune re-emerging in the sign of Aries. So you're going to want to think about what has happened over the summer in 2025. We briefly saw Neptune in this house and Saturn as well, and they have since retrograded back into Pisces, where you've been more focused on your health, your habits, and your flow. Now, if you happen to have anything 0 to about 5 degrees of Libra, sun, moon, or rising, the truth is Saturn and Neptune going into this house is going to be quite intense for the next 2 months. First things first is Neptune, and Neptune deals with the 6th house, which can be about healing, it could be about service, it could also represent anything connecting to your pets, anything revolving around your emotional health and organization. And the 7th house, yes, you hear, that's your marital partner, that's your relationship to a therapist, that's your also like your business space where you can like sell products or you can give, offerings to people. It's your market. But this is also about confronting things, right? So confronting other people. So as of January 26th, Neptune hits that 0 degree point and it's going to be moving into your 7th house, and it'll be a 14-year cycle where, yes, there can be spiritual bonds and relationships. Maybe you work with a new therapist, maybe there's a new relationship that comes in, but there can be kind of rose-colored glasses and seeing people in a very idealistic way. On one hand, it's soulmate energy, but there is this potential for projecting what we want in relationships and not getting what we deserve or what we need. So you have to be really careful because certain relationships over the next 2 months can crumble, especially when Neptune shows up in February. But I also think of like the Saturn-Neptune conjunction saying you're doing relationships in a new way. You're starting a new cycle. So relationships that have been troubled, you might be starting fresh in some way. Those of you guys who have been on the rocks for a little bit, you might find in the weeks to come that there is going to be some boundaries that are going to be created or dissolved, and deciding where you stand in your one-on-one kind of connections. Now, I would be mindful that this can also be about your relationships with anything connecting to your health practitioners, relationships to coworkers, as Neptune is kind of tied to that. And if you happen to have like 0 or 1 degree of Libra, I think it's going to be the strongest for you guys because it's going to be opposing your ascendant. So watch your habits in relationships is like the best advice that I can kind of give you guys. And some of you guys may see that there are some soulmate kind of storylines that come up, but others are going to feel like partners are becoming kind of evasive, or they're kind of taking space, or they're kind of ghosty. I think the best days for you guys in January are going to be on the 15th when Venus and Uranus trine. That is going to be, like I said, some kind of surprise regarding your home or your joint finances, which could be really positive. I also really like the new moon that's going to be happening in your 5th house because of the trine to Uranus. It means that over the next 6 months, there could be some positive changes that are happening on the home front and like windows of opportunity that's opening financially to dramatically change your home. So if you're wanting to buy, sell, renovate, or move, it's a good time to set those intentions. And then we're also going to see that we will also see Mars make that same trine. So there's this energized kind of family flow. And then on the 29th of January, you will see Mercury and Venus come into conjunction in your natal 5th house. And that's romantic, it's creative harmony, it's about tapping into your intuitive talents and finding ways to be able to better kind of create, play, and express yourself. As for the more challenging days, I think that I would be really watching the Mars-Pluto conjunction around the end of the month and also watching the Venus-Pluto conjunction around the end of the month, because I do get the impression that there is going to be some make or break situations going on in the heart space or involving children or potentially even romantic partners. I also think that the full moon is going to kind of light your chart up like a Christmas tree. So if you have Libra placements around, 12, 13, 14 degrees, it's going to square all over this chart. And it's probably going to bring some peak kind of development with your career, which is great, but you'll feel like it's coming at the cost of something that is really heavy emotional, and it's like requiring a lot of work on the home front to kind of balance some of your professional needs. And it'll create some relational kind of drama as well with squares to Chiron in your relationship house. Now, if this were me, I would say, advice for kind of navigating this, definitely watch the 9th through the 14th, because you're going to feel like there's something where there's a lot of action and activity where you're needed at home or family needs you, or there's something going on that you need to be working or fixing. And it's going to pull you away from work or career. And you're going to feel like there's this tug of war that's kind of happening. If you can start the month of January focusing on your sanctuary early, maybe using the new moon to create, the home or inner sanctuary that you crave, while diplomatically balancing career and relationship poles, you'll be fine. Mid-month, as we get into like more planets moving into your 5th house in Aquarius, it's going to ignite a lot of passion. I would encourage you guys to embrace vulnerability in love or art for some kind of profound growth. While Neptune in your 7th house is definitely going to beautify partnerships spiritually, but communicate your needs clearly to avoid any idealization of other people. Likely you'll find as a Libra that your grace is really kind of thriving this month. I think you're seeking harmony between kind of like your private roots and what's going on with playful expression in your 5th. Just make sure that you guys are nurturing your relationships without losing yourself. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what the tarot says for my Libras and Libra risings for the month of January. What advice can we give Libra to navigate this month? The card that you get is the 7 of Cups. As a Libra rising, I feel that. It's kind of like, wait, what's going on? And maybe it's almost as if there's so much action and things going on in the home zone that you're not really realizing the impact or the effects that it's either having on relationships or having on your partners. And maybe it could mean that there are some big question marks regarding what is next. Certainly Aquarius deals with the future, right? So having planets go into your 5th house at the end of the month, it is going to start aspecting Saturn and Neptune. And that is going to kind of bring the opportunity to focus more on what you want to create, what you desire, what's going to bring you joy. And you're going to be leaning on relationships a little bit more, expecting them to kind of forge a new path forward in relationships. And if you're single, it means that you're really looking for love and that you want something real and that you're seeking it. And many Libra and Libra risings are going to find that, especially with the eclipses next month. But still, the jury is still out with the 7 of Cups. You can be feeling like, I don't know what I want. There's so many, different kind of balls in the air, especially with like the balance between your private life and your career. But I feel like with the 7 of Cups, you have to be careful with having too many things, like too many irons in the fire, because there could be too many what ifs or too many different potential paths forward. And I really think that this is really tying into this back and forth that you're doing with your 4th and your 10th house. And like Jupiter rules your communication. It's also directly connected to your schedule. So there can be this sense of you kind of like over-promising at work while there is a lot of home and family stuff going on, and there can be some communication hiccups in the way. Be more focused on picking, one or two very specific goals that you want to get done this month. I would be prioritizing with Venus in the 4th and the 5th house, what's going on in the home front, and trying to kind of give yourself a little bit of breathing room with what's happening at work and in your career. There's plenty of time to work that out, especially in March and then again in the summer this year. I highly encourage you guys to get your checklist of to-do things done at home and not get too overwhelmed or lost in the bigger picture. Libra, I hope that's helpful, and I'll catch you back here next month in February. What's up, Scorpio and Scorpio rising? Welcome to January 2026. Happy New Year. I hope you guys are well. Excited to chat with you because my Scorpios, there are some really big things happening for you this month. So as you guys know, I'm always going to talk to you about what's happening with Mars and Pluto. Mars is your traditional ruler. Pluto is your modern day ruler, and they're going to be meeting this month. Okay, that's a big deal. Well, I guess more so the end of the month, kind of going into February, but they're getting really close. So something that you need to know is right around the 27th, Mars will conjunct Pluto. Write that down. That is going to be important because both of your chart rulers are going to be in the 4th house. So Mars actually starts the month moving through Capricorn. Okay, so it's been exalted here since December. That means that you're really taking action when it comes to 3rd house themes. So bold ideas, setting up websites, learning, maybe short distance trips, anything revolving around communication, siblings, neighbors, all of that stuff is kind of the focus. And we are going to see that Mars will actually come into opposition with Jupiter, and that will be in your 9th house around January the 10th. So that's going to be about bold ideas involving education, travel, maybe a little bit of, some, what's the word that I'm looking for? Yeah, some debates about home and family kind of plans or traveling or moves. And then you're also going to see that Mars is going to trine Uranus in your 7th house, and that's going to happen around the 19th, which I think is really going to be liberating the way that you communicate in relationships or the way that you're communicating with partners about money. And then we will see it enter into Aquarius on the 23rd. So it's going to go into your 4th house where it'll be 6 weeks where you're really focusing on your home, your family, your living situation, maybe moving, maybe spending time with family. And you want to watch the 27th when you see, Pluto and Mars come into conjunction. This is explosive, emotional, or family transformations, power surges at your roots. Now, I want you guys to think back for a second, okay? I want you to think back to when was it? It was like right around Halloween of last year in 2024. And then right around the beginning of January and April of 2025, Mars was actually going retrograde over your midheaven in Leo, and it was opposing Pluto, where it was like, work, putting yourself out there, reworking, redirecting where you're going professionally. And so now this is the second half of that, where now you're more able to kind of apply your energy after making all like the career changes to what's going on at home. So many of you guys are going to feel kind of like in hermit mode with your home life over the next 6 weeks. And I think with Pluto being there, this is nothing new. Pluto will be there for some time, but this is receiving multiple conjunctions this month. So you're going to see Mars come into conjunction with Pluto, Venus, the sun, obviously, Mercury will be somewhere around there right at the end of the month around, right around, I can't remember when, Mercury conjunct Pluto, around the 22nd. So there is a lot of planetary action for you guys in the month of January. To break it all down and make it a little bit more simplified, basically, I think, January of 2026 is really where you're sharpening your mind and communication before plunging into some very big changes at home with your emotional foundations. So Capricorn connecting to your 3rd house might mean you're communicating with your siblings more, there's short distance trips, maybe you're learning. It also means that this is really putting a focus on your everyday mindset. And you will see some conjunctions here. So there will be a Sun-Venus conjunction on the 6th, which is like harmonious ideas, good opportunities for contracts, good opportunities to have sweet conversations with partners, maybe connecting with your siblings. Then on the 8th of January, you're going to see Venus and Mars come into conjunction. Well, you're Mars, other people are Venus, and that means that there could be some really powerful conversations that you're having and kind of clearing the air in relationships and having some passionate debates. And then you will see the Sun and Mars come into conjunction on January the 9th, where you have to be bold with your words. This is the time to put yourself out there, send out the newsletters, launch the website, maybe get a little bit more recognition at work. And I think that this is also going to be very strong for those of you guys who work locally in your community. Maybe you work online or you work in writing or media, and just pay attention to any professional conversations you're having. Then on the 18th of the month, you're going to have a new moon in Capricorn, which is going to be in your third house. And this is powerful because it's giving the opportunity to plant seeds that are about maybe, attending new courses, new writing projects, having clearer communication. And it's also really supporting mental mastery. And that will be also trining Uranus in your 7th house. So it'll improve relationships that you have with partners. Maybe it's a breakthrough in therapy. Maybe you're working on a relationship that you have with a sibling. Now, the trick here is that you're going to see a lot of intensity from January 9th through the 14th. And that's because there are so many planets going through the third house of your kind of mindset, opposing Jupiter in your 9th house in Cancer. And, really the 3rd and the 9th house deal with education, learning, traveling, anything revolving around our belief system. And it can definitely bring up a lot of like debate type vibes. And what you guys will probably find with all of these like oppositions that are kind of taking place is just that it's exaggerating your opinions or your big picture kind of plans. And there's like a clash. So you're risking, more dogmatic debates or overthinking, over communicating, kind of feeling mentally frazzled. That can definitely happen. And I want you guys to watch on January the 3rd. There will be a full moon in Cancer, which I actually think is really beautiful for Scorpio and Scorpio risings, especially if you have anything 12, 13, 14 degrees. That full moon is going to trine your Scorpio placements. And it's in a bit of a wide trine, but it is kind of trining the North Node too. So you're going to have a water trine. And it's very close to Jupiter. So I think that it may be highlighting for some of you that, you're going to be traveling, or that it's going to give you the opportunity to publish something or to have a big breakthrough when it comes to education or your belief systems. But that opposition with the Sun in Capricorn and the Moon in Cancer is really going to show you the setup for kind of getting overextended and pulled in like two completely separate directions all month. Now, also something else that you really want to be focusing on is that there is going to be some major shifts that are going to be happening as we get into the second part of the month. So this is where planets are going to start to flow out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, which naturally by sign, it squares you. So at some point between the end of January and going into February, all Scorpio and Scorpio risings are going to have some squares, which means it's really putting the pressure on you to change and transform something about your inner world. So when the 4th house gets activated, you want to watch when Pluto conjuncts Venus on the 19th. This is going to be bringing up some depth in domestic bonds or some major transformation in regards to a home and a relationship. And then when Mars conjuncts Pluto on the 27th, that's about intense emotional action on the home front. Sun conjunct Pluto on the 23rd is focused on your roots, like man, just your ruler, Pluto is really intensifying everything here, and it's bringing up transformative, purging, or rebuilding foundation vibes. Now, thankfully, Venus will actually be early in the month trining Uranus. So it's basically saying with like the Venus trine Uranus, Mars trine Uranus on January 15th and 19th, that it's time to liberate thinking, and there could be brilliant flashes of how you can connect and collaborate and work with another person. And we will also see Neptune moving into the sign of Aries. It'll be returning back to Aries. So think about what has happened over the summer of 2025. Neptune deals with creativity, children, anything revolving around, self-expression, even like art, music, design, and it's going to move into your 6th house of health, habits, routines, and service. That will be on the 26th. And it's really starting a new 14-year cycle of tapping into your intuitive habits, maybe being more compassionate when it comes to service, spiritual wellness practices, but it can also come with some other challenges. A lot of my Scorpio and Scorpio risings I've observed have been facing job loss. Saturn and Neptune there is like a job ended. Some of you guys have been combating some really difficult either health or addiction related matters, and others have also been kind of feeling confused about what they're meant to do, what they're here to do, what their purpose is. So keep an eye on your health. It's really going to be important. And I also think that if you happen to be like a later degree Scorpio or Scorpio rising, 27, 28, 29 degrees, you may by the end of January start be feeling the incoming eclipses that are going to be starting in February next month in your 4th house. So it's almost like the Mars, Venus, Sun, Mercury, Pluto stuff that's happening in your 4th house is preparing you for this big North Node eclipse next month, which is foreshadowing more of being home, working on home, dealing with family, stuff that's going on with a parent. Obviously all ruled by Uranus, which is still in your 7th house of relationships. So partners are bringing this on. Or you could look at it from the perspective of Saturn, which will be in Aries. And that's going to be talking about getting your home in order or coming up with a routine that works for working from home or being able to support family while simultaneously getting some work done. So here's what I think. I think your best days are going to be January 15th when Venus trines Uranus, and it's an important time to be communicating with partners and trying to keep an open mind about talking about business, talking about money. I would also say use the new moon on the 18th to plant new seeds when it comes to launching websites, starting new social media platforms or profiles, maybe starting a newsletter, signing a contract, buying a car. And then on the 19th, when you see Mars trine Uranus, there's going to be big breakthroughs that you're going to happen, I think, have in relationships. And when Mercury and Venus come into conjunction on January 29th, this is going to be happening in your 4th house, and it looks like it can be positive kind of communication with family. It can also mean that you're signing a lease or a contract, or maybe you're buying a house. It can also mean that you're looking at some potential like inheritance or tax-related themes. However, for some of the most difficult transits, I would say definitely everybody's going to feel the 9th through the 14th where we have those oppositions. And just for you, keep in mind that it's just more about either mental overload, travel overload, overload with studying, education, all of that stuff, even traveling. There could be a lot of traveling going on. I would watch out for January 27th when Mars comes into conjunction with Pluto, because I think you'll see some intense kind of family drama or some power struggles that can happen. And I think the other thing is like when, you know, the Sun conjuncts Mars, when Venus conjuncts Mars, the power of communication, baby, like that's really what's going to help, I think, some of my Scorpios get through this. When in doubt, write it out, journal, go for a walk or a jog, maybe go hiking in the 3rd house to kind of clear the mind. Or go for a drive. That can be something else that can kind of help you work through some of this energy. I would say to harness the intensity this month, it's just going to require a great deal of mental clarity. Use that new moon in Capricorn to launch ideas or studies that empower you, so you can kind of temper some of the oppositions to Jupiter and kind of avoid some of the bigger debates. Mid-month, when planets are kind of hovering around Pluto, this is a time to face family shadows. Some of you guys might have to go home. Some of you guys are realizing that something is not working at home or with a parent, or there's some kind of emotional roots that need to be kind of like derooted. And you need to do that courageously, because if you do that, then there's going to be some kind of healing or like rebirth that's going to come from it. And keep in mind that with Neptune now in your 6th house, it can soften your daily routines with intuition and compassion. But avoid escapist habits. If you've been wanting to quit drinking, if you've been wanting to get back to the gym or start a meditation routine, if you have been dealing with sinus issues, headaches, migraines, inflammation, allergies, this is the time to get to the bottom of it and kind of figure out where it's coming from, because there can be some kind of tie to emotional things that have been kind of residing in your body that haven't been dealt with, that is coming up in that way. And you'll see Saturn and Neptune over like the next couple of months, like between now and the spring, this is something that a lot of you guys are going to deal with. And maybe just trying to realize just where you need a little bit more of a routine to ensure that there's more productivity, because I think that's really what this is about. Let's see, what else? And then speak your truth strategically, okay, with all the planets in Capricorn, and purge and get rid of things at home that you don't need. So it's a good time to do spring cleaning a little bit early, and really focus on rebuilding routines that are kind of honoring your body as well as your soul. All right, Scorpio, it's going to be quite the month. I'm excited to see what happens for you guys. So Let's take a look and see what the tarot has to say. What is the advice that you would like to give Scorpios and Scorpio risings for January of 2026? The card that you get is the Fool card, which is very much associated with Uranus, by the way. And so I think that it's interesting to see your chart ruler and Mercury and the Sun and Venus. You know, everything's going to be kind of trining Uranus. Even the new moon is trining Uranus. It's basically saying how you communicate is going to dictate and determine the direction of where you are going to go with relationships. And that could be with clients, business partners, you know, friends, family, whatever. And the Fool card is saying, I'm ready to start new. I'm ready to go on an adventure. I'm ready to do something I've never done before. And I got to tell you guys, a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings, I think, will be finding that in the months ahead, there is a pretty dramatic change that's going to happen at home where they're saying, hey, I'm willing to relocate, or I'm moving across the country, or I'm moving back home, or, you know, I'm going to be exploring new places. And this is about really taking chances and taking risks and like leaping into the unknown. Now, obviously the Fool card does also talk about caution, just not throwing all caution to the wind. But the more that you're going back and forth with somebody else, whether that's a spouse, if it's a financial advisor, right, Taurus, if it's going to be a bank, if it's going to be a therapist, an astrologer, they will be able to help you get out of your funk. Uranus also rules your 4th house, okay? So whether it's old emotions that you want to release that's connected to your family, or old hangups that you have, you know, and issues with relationships, clear your mind so you can really get a fresh start in January and February, and be willing to take risks and be willing to communicate and be open to relating in a different way. But this is also about traveling, exploring, and going places. So it's possible with the full moon, some of you guys will be traveling around the full moon at the beginning of the month. And if not, then you're making plans to do more of that later this year. Scorpio, I hope it's a beautiful month for you guys. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll catch you guys back here in February. What's up, my Sag and Sagittarius risings? Welcome to January 2026. Happy New Year. I'm excited to chat with you guys about what's happening with your astrology for the month ahead. And you guys know I'm going to talk all things Jupiter related, okay? So my goodness, Jupiter is definitely a main star in the astrology in January, and that's because we see a whole ton of planets going through Capricorn, which is going to be happening in your 2nd house of income, self-esteem, money, and resources, opposing Jupiter. So truth be told, it can go one of two ways. This can be a month where there is just some very big positive money things that are transpiring for you, and it's not that it's just being easily handed to you. I think a lot of you guys are going to earn it. It can also be a month where some of you guys feel like a lot of things are out of reach. This is where knowing your personal astrology is really important, because if you can see where the planets are kind of transiting and dancing with your own natal horoscope, it's going to tell more of a story of, is it going to be easy or is it going to be challenging? So I would always tell you guys, look at your chart or consult with an astrologer. If you want to talk to me, I'm always happy to talk to you. But I have seen very polarizing kind of views where some Sag risings are telling me all this good money stuff is coming into the new year, and other ones are telling me they feel like they've lost everything, everything's had to start over, they've had to give everything up, and that they are feeling like, you know, support is out of reach. So you guys tell me. Oppositions can work like that. But Jupiter is your chart ruler, and Jupiter is retrograde in your 8th house of joint resources, psychological themes, endings, taxes, death, rebirth, inheritance. So there is still a lot of inner emotional work that I think my Sag and Sag risings are doing right now. And what you guys are going to find is that with all these planets coming through your 2nd house of personal finances, possessions, income, values, there are a lot of oppositions to Jupiter. So it's going to represent a lot of what is mine and what is theirs, or what am I paying for versus what am I getting. And it's a lot of money stuff. So you will see, you know, this month that there's going to be quite a few conjunctions that are going to be taking place in your 2nd house. Like, for example, you know, the Sun and Venus are going to come into conjunction on January 6th. And I think that can bring harmony, you know, to money and worthiness. And it could be some, you know, spending money on travel or education. You are going to see on the 8th of January, Mars and Venus are going to conjunct. And this is adding passion to earning or spending. And you're going to see the Sun and Mars come into conjunction on January 9th, you know, fueling this drive for security. followed by a Mercury-Mars conjunction, which will be on the 18th, which is going to be about sharp financial planning or value talks. So really, there's a lot of energy here energizing your resources. And with all these planets linking up in your second house, it almost feels like you've been working hard all year because you have some big purchases or some big focuses on spending, in this next, month or two. All this is also ruled by Saturn, sextiling Saturn. Saturn's in the 4th house, so a lot of your money is going into home, property, furniture, updating appliances, renovating kitchens, improving flooring, just like Saturn in the 4th house stuff, or money themes revolving around family. So I do see opportunities for raises. I think there could be some really smart investments this month. And also just affirming your worth really feels potent if you're a Sag rising. Now, there will be a new moon in Capricorn that will be taking place on the 18th of January, and this will be around 28 degrees in your second house. And this is very strong in your second house, so it's perfect for, setting intentions to have stable income streams. It's also about budget resets, maybe building, healthier self-esteem, knowing your worth, and supporting your abundance in a very grounded way. We will see early in the month, around the 3rd, there is going to be a full moon in Cancer. So where the new moon on the 18th is more, what do I want? What do I want to grow? The full moon on the 3rd is more, what am I bringing in? And the moon is going to be conjunct Jupiter. So it is possible that there is a lot of receiving going on the first half of January. Maybe a lump sum, a bonus, a partner comes into some money. It could also mean that there is just a positive kind of turning point when it comes to joint finances in general. And I think that is setting the stage for all of the oppositions that you're going to be seeing to Jupiter from like the 9th through the 14th. So I would watch that full moon to see what's going to happen. Maybe money comes in and then money's going out, right? That can be the theme. It can also mean that it's really exaggerating themes connecting to the 8th house, shared resources, intimacy, transformation, bringing up topics like joint finances, debt, deep emotional investments, karmic entanglement with home and family and money. And it's really risking over giving or power struggles over money. And I think it's going to be more regarding, what is mine is what is somebody else's. So I could see a lot of like estate matters coming up, a lot of, well, we have to sell a house, who's getting what, or, we're going to be, maybe renovating, what's it going to cost us? How are we going to afford it? That kind of stuff. So watch for that. And know that, likely that full moon in Cancer in your 8th house is also going to bring up some kind of like emotional, like culminations in intimacy, and be asking yourself, like, who can I trust? And there's some potential for a really positive psychological breakthrough. Now, when we get to mid to the end of January, the energy is very different. And I think it's going to be a lot more friendly for Sagittarius, to be honest with you guys, because we're going to have quite a few planets leaving this earth sign going into an air sign. And you're going to see 2026 is a lot of air and fire energy, so you're going to vibe well with it. And planets start moving into the 3rd house, which deals with communication, short distance trips, your siblings, your neighbors, learning, also your mindset. And we're going to see quite a few planets meet with Pluto. Now, Pluto does rule your subconscious. It's about kind of like that voice in the back of your head or things that you don't quite see coming. So for my Sag and Sag risings, you guys really want to pay attention to your mindset, what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're writing, how you're talking to yourself. Be mindful that Venus will come into conjunction with Pluto in your 3rd house around the 19th. The challenge here is that there could be a lot of like drama with a female sibling or neighbor. It could also mean that, you're overcoming fears of intimacy and relationships. Then Mercury will conjunct Pluto for deep thoughts, insightful conversations that you have with relatives or even partners. On the 23rd, you're going to see the Sun come in conjunction with Pluto. So this is about focusing on big ideas and potentially planning a trip or taking on something new that you're learning. And then on the 27th of January, Mars will come into conjunction with Pluto. And this is about being a little nippy in how you communicate with people. So be mindful of your words. They can be kind of almost like act as like weapons, like with the Mars Pluto in the 3rd house. I would say thinking or local connections will transform immensely. And this is about profound conversations that lead to some kind of mental rebirth. I really encourage journaling exercises. I really encourage you guys to get into an established like writing or like walking routine, breath work, anything that's going to be lung related is very much the 3rd house. Now, something else that you're going to see is that Venus will trine Uranus on the 15th, and this will be from your second house of money. And that means that you may be investing more into changes with your health, your habits, or your office space. And then you'll see Mars trine Uranus as well. So you're really investing in, some long-standing changes to possibly mental health related themes or themes kind of connected to pets. I feel like for a lot of you guys, this is also about like liberating your values with exciting financial and self-worth surprises. And it will be somehow connected to changes with either your daily routine or like your health. Now, Neptune will be entering into Aries again, so it's going to be coming back into your 5th house. You got a preview of that in summer of 2025, where Saturn and Neptune was in the 5th house. Some Sag and Sag risings were finding themselves feeling creatively unfulfilled or dealing with childhood trauma, maybe looking for love or dealing with some newfound responsibilities connecting to children. So on the 26th, Neptune is now going to return back into your 5th house. And if you happen to have like 0 to 5 degrees of Sag, Sun, Moon, or Rising, it's trining you. So I think it's making you feel more creative, more inspired, maybe more in tune with making music, writing poetry, painting. And I think that, for the most part, this is going to be positive for you guys because it's a 14-year cycle that's beginning that's more about inspired art, having more romance, feeling more spiritual joy, and being more compassionate when it comes to your self-expression. On the other hand, keep in mind that Neptune and Saturn are going to be meeting there next month. So there is still a sense of feeling out new romantic interests. There is still a sense of trying to figure out just exactly what you want to create or exactly what it is that you kind of want to give birth to. So it's going to take a little bit more time for you guys to see that unfold, but it will be pretty obvious that some of you guys are going to be taking some really big creative risks, and I think it can actually really pay off. Now, your best days that I think are going to be happening is, number one, that full moon for you, I think is great. I think that there is a payoff and there's a huge, big emotional kind of breakthrough that you're going to have around the 3rd. And there could be some really good money stuff that can be happening around that time. I also like on the 15th when Venus trines Uranus that there's going to be some financial or value breakthroughs for you guys. The new moon in the new moon in Capricorn is wonderful if you guys are wanting to focus on, manifesting more money, buying a house, making changes in your eating habits, all of that stuff. And you guys are also going to see that on the 29th when Mercury and Venus meet. That's going to be in your 3rd house. If you're a single Sag rising, you could meet somebody online. You could also meet somebody in your neighborhood, or you could be introduced to somebody through a neighbor or through a friend. So watch for that because that could be some good love stuff that's happening because Mercury rules your relationship house, and it's also about your career. So there's opportunities to get into like a creative content schedule posting, or maybe you're launching a blog, or maybe you're bringing in money through just like writing or teaching. Now, as for the more challenging days, the full moon in Cancer will bring some emotional peaks in your 8th house, but I think it's actually pretty positive for you guys. For everyone, the 9th through the 17th, there is going to be stress, and you're going to be feeling like you're being pulled in 2 different directions. So for you, that stress is the 2nd house of your own money versus the 8th house of other people's resources, and I feel like it's like this sense of, are you spending too much? Are people taking too much? Are you getting enough in return? Like, you want to have a fair and even exchange with other people because there can be a lot of money going out in your 2nd house. And I feel like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I want to make sure that other people are kind of paying their way. And watch for shared resource drama or like just a lot of excess or like emotional spending. And then on the end of the month, when we see, Mars coming into conjunction with Pluto and, that kind of happening in your 3rd, you have to watch your words. You have to watch your driving too, Sag. So there can be a lot of like intense mental power struggles going on, or like there's like conflicts with siblings. But be very careful with driving because the 3rd house is about movement. So it can be that you're driving and you get into it with somebody, it can mean that you're texting and driving, which you shouldn't be. Be very mindful of just what you're saying and how you're moving through the world the 2nd half of the month. And Pluto is going to show you like where sometimes if there's resentment or anger or frustration or fear, it's just coming out of the blue and you're trying to figure out like, okay, why did I say that? Or like, why do I feel that way? And just mind your words is what I would say. So all in all, for kind of navigating the month ahead, I would say focus on the beginning of January in building security early. Use that new moon to kind of really affirm your worth and plan finances wisely, while kind of tempering Jupiter's pull in your 8th house towards risky shared ventures. And mid-month, when Pluto really sharpens your voice in your 3rd house, embrace deep, honest communication. It's going to bring you lots of mental growth. And keep in mind that with Neptune out in your 5th house, even though this is about, really infusing creativity with love and intuition and magic, avoid escapism kind of tendencies in relationships. Don't get too attached to people who might be kind of in and out. I do think that because you guys are a little bit more optimistic, you're really going to kind of thrive this month, and you're going to really expand your values in an authentic way. Just remember to speak your truth boldly, and this is really about letting joy kind of guide your guys' abundance, okay? All right, let's see what the cards say for my Sag and Sag risings. What do you guys need to know for the month ahead? What does the tarot want you to know? The card that I get for you is the 5 of Coins, which is so ironic when you think about it. Because the 5 of Coins is being like, please, I don't have enough, or, like, somebody help me, or I'm feeling kind of like out in the cold, or, I lost my job, or I'm low on cash, which the astrology would really beg to differ. I would say a full moon conjunct Jupiter in the 8th house might bring you something, but it might bring you something in the moment where you're really dire and you're in some need. The 5 of Coins is also about kind of feeling like you're being overlooked, you're being forgotten. And so if that's happening in a family or in a relationship sense, if that's happening at work, if that's happening with friends, so much of the 2nd house is like you have to reaffirm every single day, I am good enough, I am worthy, I am abundant, I am healthy, I am successful. You have to do it. Because if you're not, then you're definitely going to get into some problems with some of the oppositions, and you're going to feel like you're constantly yearning for things that you really could start giving yourself. Remember, the universe responds to vibration. So what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're giving energy to is literally what's going to start to flow. So you have to be mindful of what you're thinking about, how you're talking to yourself, and not being in this poverty mindset. I know for some of you guys, easier said than done. I've heard very, like I said, extremes for different Sag risings. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for abundance this month, a lot of opportunity for support, but also those transits going through the 2nd house really makes me feel like it's about picking yourself up by the bootstraps and being like, I can do it on my own, I've got this. And then things start to respond to that. And a lot of it's about maybe changing the job, with Trine Steer Honest, or changing something about your health or your habits, and also really kind of staying grounded and supporting like the nervous system. With that 5 of Coins, I wonder where you're feeling the shortage. And maybe, Jupiter retrograde in the 8th house isn't so much financially. It could be more that emotional connection, that feeling of home, that connection to family. So be mindful of what you are yearning for, but don't tell yourself that it's out of reach. I think that's really what I would want to get at. Don't tell yourself that it's out of reach. And obviously, everything that's kind of going through your 2nd house is 7th house to Jupiter. So it's about the relationship that you have with making money and how you feel about the way that you make money. And if you might be making a lot of money, but you might be like, I don't really like doing what I'm doing, and so therefore I'm not happy, and I have money, but like, what am I doing with it? What am I working so hard for? So there's this reorientation that happens around the new moon about your resources, and like not only what you have, but what you're working towards. And I would really lean into that, especially if you have some new goals when it comes to your home. All right, Sag, good luck. Let me know what happens. I'm excited to see how this manifests for you, and I'm sure we will chat soon in February. What's up, my Capricorns and my Capricorn risings? Welcome to January of 2026. Happy New Year. And if you're a January Capricorn, happy birthday to you. I hope it's a good one. My God, if I could trade spots with any other rising sign this month, I think I would want to trade spots with Capricorn rising. Because you guys are just like kicking ass and taking names. So first of all, we always talk about what's going on with Saturn. Nothing is really happening with Saturn per se. Saturn is still in Pisces for one last month, okay, until February. And it's now direct, and it's still very close to Neptune. So with all these planets that are going to be moving through Capricorn this month, Mercury, Mars, Sun, Venus, it will all be sextiling Saturn, which is really good for you. Have a morning routine, get up, do things, get stuff done. If you say you're going to do something, do it. It's mind over matter. And this is a lot about actions and words working together, right? Not just saying you're going to do something, showing people, communicating, and really being in the flow. Saturn in the third house is also about your mindset. And so with some of these supportive sextiles that we are also seeing to Uranus in Taurus, especially right around the January 20th period, there is this harmonious blend of structure and innovation when it comes to thinking or local matters or relationship communication or creative expression. And nothing is really happening this month with Saturn. Okay, so that's that. So really the themes are, with so many other planets going through your first house, I think not just that discipline when it comes to communication and change, and yeah, you're building thoughtfully, but this is also about you getting active, okay? Mars starts the month off in your sign, so you're feeling like you're up and you're ready to go, and you need to be moving your body, especially when it comes to making things happen at home or with the family. You're also going to find that there will be several conjunctions happening in Capricorn. So quite honestly, if you have anything from like 15 to 29 degrees, one way or the other, there is going to be some really prominent kind of aspects that are taking place in your chart. More specifically, that 16, 17, 18 degrees of Capricorn is going to get hit with like all of the conjunctions between the Sun, Venus, and Mars. And then if you've got anything that's around 18, 19, 20 degrees, it's going to be in opposition to Jupiter. And then if you've got anything around 27, 28, 29 degrees, you're going to be feeling the new moon in Capricorn. So like there's so much action in the second, like the second and the third decan of Capricorn this month. It's wild. So let's put it all together. I think that January feels deeply personal because all these planets are moving through your first house, which is really spotlighting your identity and yourself before shifting later in the month into a focus on finances and values. So because Capricorn is your first house, this is about your appearance, it's about your body, it's also about your personal kind of initiative and how you show up in the world. So with early conjunctions taking place, like for example, on the 6th of the month, we're going to see Sun and Venus coming into conjunction. That's a really sexy, beautiful, transformative, alluring energy. You're going to see Venus and Mars coming into conjunction on January 8th, which is good for passion and personal goals, especially when it comes to your career or your home life. You're going to see the Sun conjunct Mars on the 9th of January, which is raw drive, personal power, personal transformation. And then you're going to see Mercury and Mars come into conjunction on the 18th, which means that you're just more direct and assertive when it comes to your belief system, communication, health, and travel. Like, you guys are just kicking the door in with these transits. I think that it's going to be cool because these energies are really going to, I think, like energize your presence. And like you're going to walk into a room and people are going to see you. And you're going to be really embracing the theme of the new year, where we have new beginnings, style changes, bold initiatives, and everything is going to feel like you're playing with home field advantage. Now, on top of that, you will also have a new moon in Capricorn on January the 18th. That'll be at 28 degrees of Capricorn. This is huge. It's going to trine Uranus in your 5th house. So if you have creative goals or romantic goals or goals revolving around children, they could change suddenly. You're also going to see that it's going to sextile Saturn. So if you think it, read it, say it, or believe it, it can happen. And this is really ideal for, personal reinvention, maybe health goals or a fresh new image. And this is your annual kind of reset, but it's got lots of extra power, Capricorn. So use it wisely. Here's the challenge. The challenge is that we are going to see a ton of planets in your sign oppose Jupiter. So it means there's a lot of what I want, what I'm doing, where I'm going, and then Jupiter retrograde in the 7th is your relationship to another person. Jupiter can mean secret relationship vibes. It could mean seeking soulmates. It could mean traveling with partners. It could mean that you're wanting to get clarity in where you stand in relationships. It could also mean you're like really attracting people. So that opposition can act like a magnet. And the 7th house could be your relationship with family, Cancer, relationship maybe to a spouse or romantic partner, a therapist, an astrologer, long distance relationships. I mean, it could go a number of different ways. And so when we see this opposition between, the January 9th and the 14th, all of these planets are going to come together and oppose Jupiter and make the me versus, you theme feel bigger. And on one hand, it can create tension, and there can be this personal drive that's kind of clashing with your partner's needs. Yes, it can bring up some ego issues, and it can also make us feel like we have to over-compromise. But if you're really following what happens with the full moon around the 3rd of January, that sun-moon opposition is going to show you what's going to happen the 9th through like the 14th. And it's really going to be about emotional culminations in relationships or commitments. Now, I think with Juno in your first house, with a full moon in your 7th house, for some Capricorn and Capricorn risings, they're going to get married, they're going to get engaged, they're going to meet a future spouse. I think some of them are going to realize that there is this really strong pull in the direction of relationships, and suddenly some things kind of just come together in a very beautiful way. But also full moons can be make or break dynamics in relationships if things have not been working. And as planets are moving through Capricorn in your sign, it's also going to come into a square with Chiron. So it's about you taking action to kind of heal any wounds revolving around where is home, where is my family going to be, what's going on with parents. And you may feel like there's a little bit of tension between what you want, making a relationship work, and also where you live. So energy changes very dramatically the second half of the month. We start seeing then planets that are going to be leaving Capricorn, and it's going to be going into Aquarius, and then it becomes much more of a financial focus end of January into February. The second house deals with your money, your possessions, self-worth, and we're going to see a lot of Pluto conjunctions. And Pluto represents the money or the income that comes from work. It also represents your goals, your community, and your friendships. So watching, planets come into conjunction with Pluto is going to be intense. And you'll see the first one on the 19th of January where Venus conjuncts Pluto, and this is really intensifying your passions and your goals revolving around earning. We're going to see Mercury come into conjunction with Pluto on the 22nd, where this is going to be about deep value talks and transformations maybe to what you're eating or how you're organizing or dealing with your money or your finances. The Sun will conjunct Pluto on the 23rd, and this is a focus on personal security, particularly financial security. And then on the 27th of the month, you're going to see Mars coming into conjunction with Pluto. Very passionate when it comes to, making money. There's a lot of drive when it comes to your finances. And obviously, resources or worth will transform in a very profound way. So there can be powerful shifts in income or in self-esteem this month. I'm liking when it's the 15th and the 19th, when Venus and Mars are in your sign and it's trining Uranus. You're willing to take risks in love or, with investing or with anything connected to the market maybe. It's also possible that there's going to be some big transformations that are happening involving children. Maybe liberation and self-expression and some, kind of exciting personal surprises that start kind of happening for you, or some new hobbies that kind of come online. I think the other thing that I would be focusing on is the fact that Neptune is going to go back into Aries. So if you happen to have anything in Capricorn, 0 to about 2 or 3 degrees, Neptune's going to move back into your 4th house of home, and it's going to be squaring you. And like 0 to the first couple degrees of all the cardinal signs are going to feel this. Even if though you don't have any planets in Aries, you will feel it. You had some of this come up in the summer. You had Saturn and Neptune in your 4th house, and a lot of you guys either felt like there was some distance or isolation with family. You've moved to a foreign land. You had housing issues. You had issues with a parent. Maybe you had to move back home, something like that was going on. I've heard some Capricorn risings telling me they're going to foreign lands. I've heard some saying that they have parents that have dementia. I feel for you guys. I have Saturn and Neptune in my 4th house, and I feel like I understand, and it can be incredibly difficult, but you have to keep in mind that this month, with all these planets in Capricorn, like sextiling Saturn and like really dominating like the 4th house, it's mind over matter. You can literally move mountains this month. And yes, you may find that with Neptune going into your 4th house of home, family, roots, and inner security, this is kicking off a new 14-year cycle of, in a positive way, finding your spiritual sanctuary. Maybe this is about navigating family blocks and karma. Maybe it's about finding or building your dream home. It can also represent, moving to a foreign land. It can also mean that you're having some separation or isolation from certain family members. I think your best days are going to be on the 15th, when Venus in your sign trines Uranus in the 5th, and it's good for romance and creative wins. I also like the new moon in your 1st house on the 18th for self-reinvention and focusing on your personal goals. I also like when Mercury and Venus are coming into conjunction, in your 2nd house around the 29th. Good money talks, and it can also mean that there is going to be much more of a focus on investing in things that you truly value, investing in maybe travel, investing in education, that kind of stuff, and just more like harmonious self-talk. So for your more challenging days, okay, where there's going to be some difficulties, I do think that just in general for everybody, like the 9th or the 14th, you know, everybody's going to be feeling overextended. And for you, I think it might be clashes that you have with a partner, especially if you feel like they're not completely telling you things or they're kind of keeping you in the dark on some stuff. I could also see that the Mars-Pluto conjunction happening around the 27th could bring up some major financial power struggles and intensities there. And I would be watching when planets are hovering around 21 to 23 degrees as it squares Chiron, because you're kind of dealing with some family wounding or some issues in regards to, you know, roommates, family members, you know, issues involving housing. Or just not getting along well with a parent. That can definitely kind of come up, and you might feel like you kind of have to go your own way. Now, if I were to give you guys advice this month, I would say, first of all, own your power this month, okay? Because things start to change in February. When Saturn and Neptune go into your 4th house, some of you guys are going to feel like you're stuck at home, or, you know, you're having to deal with like a really heavy kind of family matter. Get out and about and get stuff done. Stay moving, get up early, have a routine. Use that new moon really to propel yourself forward and focus on your goals, and try to kind of do your best to balance out that Jupiter energy. Like, don't get too lost in the relational demands of other people. Try to be diplomatic. And then mid-month, when planets are going into Aquarius, it's going to be more about rebuilding your self-worth or your resources, and it becomes very much about money. And this is about embracing necessary endings that are not going to bring you security in the long term. Keep in mind that Neptune in the 4th house can be confusing when it comes to buying property, signing leases, or you know, moving in or out with people. You have to kind of use your intuition there. Try to really ground your home and family dreams in reality. But all in all this Capricorn energy at the beginning of the month really shows me that your discipline strength really shines. And so if you can lead yourself first, then you can start building some of the financial and like the foundational themes that you need to as the next couple of months progress. And you're definitely going to find that 2026 is going to be a completely different ball game, especially when it comes to your home life. So you have to kind of really focus on building that momentum as you kick off the new year. All right, Capricorn. Well, let's see what the cards have to say for you guys for the month ahead. Obviously, for some of you guys, I know it's your birthday month, so no whammies. What can we tell our Capricorns about January of 2026? I could not have picked a better card myself. Queen of Coins. Well, I mean, it's boss lady vibes, right? It's like I'm in it to win it. And what we're nurturing, what we're taking care of. I mean, could it be another Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo that's coming in that's supporting you? Sure, of course. But I think this is about you going, I'm knowing my worth, I'm investing in it. There's a lot of communicating and connecting and empowering the self with these sextiles. A lot of money stuff. And you'll see this because next month there's going to be eclipses in your 2nd house, which are very financial. And you're focusing and coming into a period where you're totally reinventing and really kind of getting up to date with some big financial changes. And like Aquarius being in the 5th house, it might mean that you're experimenting with cryptocurrencies, or maybe you're going to be experimenting in trading, or you're going to be into gambling, or there's going to be some kind of, you know, getting up to speed with where the future of money is going. And that's what you will do. So you're listening to your intuition and your gut on that this month. It can mean there's some really good money stuff that's coming up, that you're managing money in a different way, that your values are changing, and you're nurturing what you need to feel secure. So I think you're really on top of it. I mean, I know that you guys will hear some heavy stuff with money with some of the Pluto conjunctions, but remember, Pluto is going to strip away anything that's not going to bring you real stability in the long term, and it is about your goals transforming. I think because of the connection to Uranus, it means that you want to make money in a creative way. You want to make money in a way that feels fun. You want to maybe start a business, or you're wanting to do something that's a little bit more independent. And those are the risks that you're willing to take. So I look forward to seeing you guys do that over the next couple of months. Once again, thank you guys, and I will catch you back here in February. What's up, my Aquarius and Aquarius risings? Welcome to January 2026. Happy New Year. If you are having your birthday in January, I hope it's a good one for you guys. Boy, oh boy, there is quite a bit of stuff that's happening this month. So as you guys know, I always talk to you about what's going on with Saturn, what's going on with Uranus. Not too much is happening with Saturn per se, and there is some stuff that's also kind of happening with Uranus. We're going to see some trines, but Saturn is your traditional ruler. He is spending one last month in January in your second house of money, personal finance, and income. And what's nice is that he is now direct, and Saturn's actually getting ready to leave that house. So I think a lot of you guys are going to see some improved finances once Saturn leaves here in about a month or two. Now, Saturn is sextile Uranus, your modern day ruler. So you're getting more clear about your spending habits, your self-esteem, your resources, and the sextile to Uranus is the changes that then brings for your home, your family, or your living situation. So they're in a harmonious aspect. Maybe this means that when this takes place, the sextile, which will be exact around January the 20th, it's about practical kind of like innovation, and that's like really stabilizing your resources and your self-worth. Now, we will also see this month that there are going to be a few trines from planets in Capricorn the first half of January in your 12th house of the subconscious to Uranus in your 4th house. And so I look at this and go, okay, well, probably what's going to end up happening here is there's going to be sudden home insights. There's going to be dreams about ancestors. Perhaps there's going to be a really strong intuition and a feeling like you're really ready to be out with the old and in with the new. And that might mean new emotional shifts, new home shifts, cleaning out closets, kind of letting go of the past, and all of this Aquarius energy that's coming in the second half of the month. And so obviously you're going to see a stellium in Capricorn, which is kind of like the 12th house of the subconscious, the ethers, and I call this the cocoon phase. So it's when you go into your cocoon and then planets go across the ascendant and then boom, they hit Pluto, and it's about like the butterfly. So there's going to be some major personal transformations this month. And I think the theme is really about innovating structure in values and like freedom through detachment. Now, all in all, January is very interesting for you guys because it's going to feel like polar opposites. Like one thing is ending and one thing is beginning. And part of that's because planets are starting the month going through the 12th house to your sign, and that does represent, you know, clearing out, reevaluating what's happened in the last year. What do I take with me? What do I let go? And this is really inviting you to focus on inner reflection and healing before really activating your personal presence dramatically at the end of January. Now, Capricorn is your 12th house, so this is your subconscious, this is your solitude, spirituality, hidden matters, and release, and it can be highlighting where you are hiding out, hermiting, healing, sleeping, anything connecting to overworking. So you want to keep that in mind. And there will be quite a bit of focus on releasing, especially because all these planets are going to come into conjunction with each other. And then they're going to hit Pluto, where you're going to be like, nope, this is the new and improved me. The new way I'm looking, the new way I'm dressing, the new way that I'm working. And I think that it's going to be really fun because you're going to see quite a few conjunctions that actually happen in a very private way, which is going to start early in the month. So we will see on January the 6th, the Sun and Venus are going to conjunct, and this is about, I think, just taking time to retreat, particularly with a partner or getting a little bit more romance behind the scenes in. Then we're going to see Mars and Venus come into conjunction on January 8th, and this is more passion behind the scenes. Maybe you're creating and you're feeling kind of inspired, you're watching movies, you're doing artistic things. And then on the 9th, you're going to see the Sun conjunct Mars in the 12th house, which is about this drive for closure. Now, it can be closure with relationships. It can be closure with creative partners. It can also represent that you're just really ready to let things go. And all of this is connecting to Saturn, which is in your second house. So you're letting go of old feelings of, I have to do this for a living, or I have to have X amount of money, or I have to possess this. You're like, nope, I'm letting it go. I'm not going to hold on to that anymore. And then you'll see Mercury and Mars come into conjunction on the 18th, and that's going to be about deep kind of inner dialogue and inner talks, and it can be some psychic stuff happening, really good for getting readings, psychological breakthroughs, having really strong intuitive feelings about stuff that you guys got to pay attention to. Keep a dream journal with some of those transits around mid-month. And this is really helping you energize spiritual work, therapy, or simply just letting go. Then on the 18th, we're going to see a new moon in Capricorn in your 12th house. And this is really going to be, I think, potent because it's really perfect for working with the subconscious in a productive way, subconscious healing, spiritual practices, or releasing old patterns that supports quiet renewal. And it will be sextiling Saturn, your ruler, and it'll be trining Uranus, your modern day ruler. So it basically means this is the let it go moment. I won't sing it for you guys. I'm tone deaf, but you know what I'm saying. Like really, okay, shedding of the old skin. I think for a lot of Aquarius risings, it's going to be feelings of guilt, feelings of being stuck in a job or held back professionally. It's also going to be a lot of like ancestor support. So there's going to be a lot of support that's kind of coming in from the other side because the 4th house is family and the 12th house represents ancestors. So ancestral altars, meditations, prayers, connecting with them, asking them for guidance, they will probably show up in your dreams, or they will send you signs or symbols that they're trying to kind of support you. And then one other thing to kind of think about is that this is really about releasing old patterns, and it really requires you to take a lot of kind of quiet time for renewal. Now the catch is, because there's always a catch, is that the 12th house is about healing, resting, being behind the scenes, sleeping, hospitals, foreign lands. Okay, great. But it's all going to oppose Jupiter in your 6th house. And the 6th house really is your work, your health, your habits. You know, are you eating your vegetables? Are you cleaning your room type of stuff? And it's also going to be about work and your office space. And Jupiter rules money and resources. So it does look like a lot of this is going to be about time management, work management, whether or not you're burning the candle on both ends, and if it's kind of having an impact on your health or your performance at work. That's something I'd watch for. And there will actually be, you know, I think just this period from the 9th through the 14th, that's just really going to exaggerate your daily demands. And there is risk of overworking, pulling you from much needed rest. And so the problem is that Mars is exalted here, so you're probably working at night and you're getting things done. And then Jupiter's exalted here, where you're like, and I'm also still trying to go to the gym, and I'm also trying to do this and that. And I would just say, watch your health. I would be more inclined to tell you you need sleep with Saturn and Pisces and sextiles between your 12th house than you really need to be overworking, working out, stressing yourself out, you know, trying to do too much. You need sleep right now, because you're going to find when planets are going through your ascendant, then it's going to be that regeneration period. You're probably going to be feeling more up to doing some of the things that you want to get done. Now, there will be a full moon in Cancer on the 3rd, and it'll be in your 6th house, and it's going to be really close to Jupiter. So it's going to be highlighting like maybe scheduling parties, events, things revolving around groups, and helping and being of service and helping other people in need. And that full moon is going to start to show you how things are just going to get pulled so back and forth from the 9th through the 14th. Great for, you know, getting clarity on a health matter, changing offices, focusing on your pets, maybe improving your health and your habits, you know, connecting with a doctor or somebody who can kind of help you heal, particularly because of the trines to your 2nd house. I would say if you're having issues with your thyroid, if there's issues with your feet, if there's issues with your voice, if there's any issues connecting to your dietary stuff in particular, like working with like trainers, it can be good for that. But I think that this is really kind of saying you have to prioritize your health. Otherwise, you know, you're going to kind of feel like you're under the weather and not getting enough sleep later in the month. Very different vibe once we get to mid-month. Okay, so you just got to hang in there, because it's going to almost feel like it's darkest before the dawn. And when we get to mid-month, then planets are coming into Aquarius and you're playing with home field advantage. So planets are going to cross over your 1st house, which basically means that this is yourself, your body, your appearance, your identity, and your initiative. Every planet, Mercury, Mars, Sun, Venus, will meet with Pluto. And Pluto on your 1st house is your personal will, right? Your personal power, your personal authority, and what you are changing and transforming. And it's magnetic when it's in the 1st house. So watching Venus come into conjunction with Pluto in your 1st house, I feel like is you have a lot of personal charm and charisma. It's intensified. It's very sexy. And also you're wanting to transform something probably about your home, or maybe considering getting out of the house or traveling. Then you're going to see on the 22nd, Mercury will conjunct Pluto. Watch your words, watch your self-talk, watch for negativity, and also watch mental health. On the 23rd of the month, you're going to see the Sun come into conjunction with Pluto, and that might mean that somebody is noticing you, approaching you, fixated on you, kind of obsessed with you a little bit. It can also mean that other people can be quite critical of you. And then Mars will conjunct Pluto on the 27th, and that is assertive presence and kind of like demanding attention and like directing and managing and like being very much like, you know, don't tell me what to do energy. you're going through this major, really powerful period. And I would say it could be used for magnetism or it could be used for pushing people away. And you guys have to be kind of mindful of those conjunctions to Pluto. It's really bringing transformation and some kind of self-rebirth, but it can also manifest as frustration, anger, fevers, accidents, heat, excessiveness, and just being like very intense, because Pluto will do that. So what you guys want to work with, I think, is on the 15th when Venus is in your 12th house and it's trining Uranus, because it means that it can actually give you the opportunity to kind of liberate your subconscious, release old patterns and fears, clear out old family karma. And then Mars will actually make the same trine as well. And that will allow you, I think, to kind of be more innovative when it comes to your intuitive insights. Now, Neptune is going to move into Aries. It's going to return to Aries. And it was there briefly over the summer in your third house. Obviously, Neptune is connected to your money and your resources. And the third house is the mind, siblings, learning, cars, anything that deals with writing. And Saturn and Neptune were both there. So you probably felt that very strongly over the summer, that you were trying to be more mindful of how you communicate. Maybe you were wanting to learn about mysticism or meditation or tarot or divination. Maybe there's been some family issues, particularly with siblings or neighbors. And maybe there's been some issues with the vehicle and an emphasis on just how you're writing and communicating and showing up in the world. And so, now Neptune comes back and it's going to be starting on the 26th, this new 14-year cycle, where the positive is it could have you being more intuitive when you're thinking, poetic with words, having more spiritual and local connections. But it can also mean that you're dealing with siblings that are having mental health issues, or crazy neighbors, or, cars that are having issues or breaking down, or, gadgets that are kind of frying. And so, try to be aware of how you're communicating. I would say that to you anyway, with Mercury and Mars hitting Pluto, but I think that really I'd be paying attention to it with just Neptune and then next month Saturn coming into that sign. Now, I think your guys' best days are going to be on the 15th when Venus and Uranus trine, because I think it's great for some kind of subconscious or innovative type home or family healing. I also really like the full moon for you guys, because it is going to be, in aspect, pretty close aspect to Saturn, a little bit more than 10 degrees. But I think that's good for getting clarity when it comes to your emotions and how it's impacting your health. I think that I also like on the, Mars trine Uranus, which is on the 19th. That's for kind of like breaking through and making some changes, either in cleaning out closets, cleaning out your house, reorganizing your kitchen. And I like Mercury Venus on the 29th when they come into conjunction, because I think you're going to be speaking a little bit more sweetly and kindly to other people, and you're going to be getting along better with like family and relationships better. And be feeling like you're a little bit more loving and generous after going through a little bit of like a pressure cooker early in the month. As for your more challenging days, I would say probably for everybody the 9th or the 14th, when there's just this opposition between Jupiter, which is going to make everything bigger. And for you, it's money stuff, work stuff, health stuff, and maybe work overload and not getting enough rest. I want you to be mindful of when all the planets come into conjunction with Pluto. So at the end of the month, the Mars-Pluto conjunction on the 27th, the Venus-Pluto conjunction. This is about, intense personal power struggles, but power struggles with what? Your career and authority, with your relationships, with your home. And it's interesting because this is the foreshadowing, and I think you're really going to feel this if you're an Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, especially if you're like anywhere from, 20 to 29 degrees. February will boast a solar eclipse in your sign, which is going to be showing you where you may feel like, that's it, I need to change my home, or I need to move or relocate, or I can't stand my family anymore, I got to move out. Something will happen that's going to make you want to break free, and you're going to want to feel like you want independence and you need a sense of identity that is different than that of either your family or a partner. And so you're going to feel a little rebellious this month, a little bit more than usual. And I think it starts more in a subconscious way, and then it starts to kind of emerge much more kind of like obviously come the end of the month. The advice I would give you guys, I think, for January would just be really prioritize rest and solitude early on. Don't overwork, don't overdo it. If you're starting to notice that you're running slow or you're feeling run down around the full moon on the 3rd, you got to take it easy. I think that I would use the new moon for deep spiritual rest and also, you know, setting spiritual intentions. And you have to kind of manage Jupiter's kind of daily grind and pulls. This also means that this is going to be a time where once we get into mid-month, when there's conjunctions to Pluto in your first, this is about long-term empowerment, and this is about having a more authentic kind of identity. And if you find yourself getting agitated or getting annoyed or frustrated, that's because you may not feel like you can actually truly authentically be yourself. And so I would embrace transformation boldly. I would say with Neptune moving into your third house, try to soften your communication with empathy and inspiration, and stay clear-minded, because sometimes we can kind of get confused in communication or not understand things with Neptune there, or not see how our tone kind of comes across, and try to stay clear-minded. I think that with so much Pluto energy moving through your first house, it's all about, you know, first innovating from within and releasing the old. So really you can step forward into something that's going to be a new phase where you can be uniquely yourself. And you're going to see what I'm talking about when we see the eclipses that are going to be coming up for you next month. So let's take a look and see what the cards have to say for you, my Aquarius and Aquarius risings. What does the tarot want you to know about January of 2026? Wow, the deck almost just jumped out at me. Whew. Oh, interesting. You get the Four of Coins. I'm trying to remember who else got that. There was another sign that got that. What are you holding on to that you probably shouldn't be holding on to? And I think a lot of this could be like Mars going through your 12th house, like resentment, agitation. Oh, I have to work a certain way. I have to be doing this. It has to be grind, 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 you know? And I would be like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. There are things that maybe you're physically holding on to as well. Like I think about how Neptune rules, you know, possessions and stuff that you physically kind of value, or like money, and like Neptune's going into the third house, and it might mean that it's time to drop this perspective on, I have to have the things, right? And maybe it's more about experiences, it's less about things. And maybe also this means that you're wrapping up January, you know, with being like, okay, I'm being more conservative with my resources. I'm being more cautious with my money. I'm being mindful of what I'm spending on and what I truly value. And what you're really valuing, I think, is freedom. Saturn and Neptune going into Aries, you value freedom. And so you're not going to want to be in a situation where you're going to want to have financial things that are going to be holding you or kind of like bogging you down. And you'll see in you know, February, March, there's going to be retrogrades in that part of your chart, and there's another eclipse coming. But I really think that this is about you saying, okay, what do I hold on to and what do I let go of? Which I always say for every sign when they have planets going through the 12th house, but I really want you to do that work. And I think that because of the tie to Saturn, there may be some like physical objects or things that you're holding on to that you think brings you security or some kind of value, but maybe it's time to actually release it and let it go. So donating, you know, cleaning out closets, selling stuff, getting rid of stuff, and like kind of going into what's going to be the new year with having less stuff around is going to help you feel more free and less cluttered, right? Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you guys. Definitely let me know what happens. I mean, look at this. I'm just looking at your 12th house. Go clear out your closets. There's stuff in there that you need to clear out anyway that you just don't need, but also stuff that's holding a lot of like energy in it. And I feel like it can be very liberating to just like lighten the load a little bit at home. Okay. Do let me know what happens. I'm curious with you guys, the conjunctions to Pluto, what does that materialize as for you? And obviously if you have a birthday this month, happy birthday. I'll see you here in February. What's up, my Pisces and Pisces risings? Welcome to January 2026. Happy New Year. I'm excited to chat with you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. You guys know I'm always going to talk to you about what's going on with Jupiter, your traditional ruler, what's going on with Neptune, your modern day ruler. And guess what? There's stuff happening with both of them this month. So Pisces, you're going to feel it. Obviously, my first focus is what's going on with Jupiter. And I will just say that Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer in your fifth. So you're in a process between now and like March where reevaluating, what do I love? Who do I want to date? How do I want to create? How do I play? What's going on with kids? How am I going to find joy? And all of that gets tested a bit this month because you're going to see a ton of planets moving through Capricorn in your social zone, coming into opposition with Jupiter in your fifth house of your personal joy, creativity, and romance. So maybe, you know, the oppositions that are kind of coming up are kind of exaggerating things in your heart space. Now on to Neptune. Neptune will be leaving Pisces and going into Aries this month. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. On one hand, you've had Neptune in your sign for what, 14 years-ish. It's probably been sometimes amazing and spiritual and, totally life-changing, and in other ways very isolating and draining and feeling lost and dazed and confused. So the fact that Neptune is graduating and moving out of your sign is wonderful. Now, you got a brief kind of taste of this last year when Saturn and Neptune both left your sign and went into Aries, and there was a huge focus and emphasis on personal resources, money, values, what you're building, your self-esteem, your spending habits. And so Neptune comes back. And my interpretation and how I've kind of really actually talked to a lot of Aquarius risings about this has been like, hey, where's the hole in the bucket? You got subscriptions that you're paying for that you don't know that you have. There's lots of money going out into things that, you don't need to spending money on. And I would say Neptune going into this house is really for the next 14 years going to have you have this long-term shift towards making decisions with money intuitively, a spiritual abundance, compassionate worth, but also being mindful of where there needs to be better boundaries revolving around resources and spending, and becoming aware of your financial goals and making them real, and probably next month sticking to a budget when Saturn comes back. So those are like the two big ones, okay? Now, January, basically in a nutshell, it's really energizing your social life. So there's a ton of planets moving through Capricorn, and your 11th house can both be social networking, right? Professional networking. It can be getting online, starting groups, joining groups. It can be going and hanging out with people, going to parties. I think that the first half of January is just lit with just a lot of social events and a lot of focusing on your goals. And so there can be some really great, energies to get out and socialize before planets go into Aquarius in your 12th house. And it's going to feel a little bit more inward, and it's going to be profound for like personal healing. Now, Capricorn rules your 11th house. So these conjunctions that we're going to see in Capricorn are very significant. There's a lot of them going on. It starts on the 6th when you see Sun and Venus come into conjunction in your 6th house. And I think that this is great for, work collaborations. It's great for team meetings. It's great for networking to find a job. You're also going to find with Venus and Mars meeting on January the 8th, it's great for passion in groups and maybe meeting people at parties. On the 9th of the month, we're going to see the Sun and Mars come into conjunction in Capricorn, which is really focusing on this drive that you have when it comes to your health and your professional goals. And really a dream pursuit feels supported by other people. Then you'll have a new moon in Capricorn on the 18th in your 11th house, which is really ideal for kind of really putting intent into who am I going to be connecting with professionally? Who are my friends? What networks am I joining? This is all about setting intentions regarding your long-term visions and also like humanitarian goals. The only catch here is that you're going to see throughout all of this Capricorn energy, where it's very much goals and friends and gatherings, there's a lot of oppositions to Jupiter in your 5th house. And this is kind of saying, this is what my friends are doing, this is what my friends want, but this is what I want. And so there is this tension between, do I focus on my 5th house, my romantic partner, my business, my children, my happiness, or do I, kind of go along with what everybody else is doing? Do I follow the crowd? Do I try to keep up with the Joneses? And is that really going to make me happy? And so there can be this feeling of having to almost like show up and put your joy on hold to appease other people. And because the 5th house deals with creativity, romance, and play, what you'll find is January 9th through the 14th, you're going to get tested, Pisces. You're going to feel it. And maybe it's exaggerating, social parties or drama with friends. Maybe it's exaggerating things in love. Maybe there's, a sense of risking social plans, and that's clashing with your personal joy. I would be watching the full moon in Cancer. That's going to be happening around January the 3rd, because it will show you the moon in the 5th house in opposition to the sun before you have these oppositions start from the 9th through the 14th. And likely what you're going to find is that that full moon is really highlighting emotional culminations in romance, creativity, children. I mean, so many Pisces and Pisces risings are going to get pregnant with this full moon because of the moon-Jupiter conjunction, or they'll find out right around the full moon, and then there's going to be like going to parties and being like, oh, I'm not drinking, and then, people knowing, or you're going to go to other people's parties or birthdays or, celebrations, and you're going to be like, I don't want to like take away from their moment, you know, but like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And like that kind of stuff will happen. But there can also be people who are celebrating, you know, births and creative projects and launches and things that you're doing as well. Certain people want to celebrate with you because they're all opposing Jupiter. Jupiter is you. So they want to share in your excitement. Then I think I would watch mid-month when planets start to then move into Aquarius, and they're going to be leaving your social zone and they're going into the 12th house. And this is a house of solitude. It's about being behind the scenes, your subconscious, your spirituality. It's also about release. This is the 12th house, so everything kind of cycles out here. And I think for many of you guys, I would just watch the conjunctions with Pluto. They may be a little bit more subtle than what's going on for some of the other signs, because the 12th house could be what happens in your dreams, or, you know, it's about something you see in a meditation or some kind of inspiration, or just kind of feeling like actually Pisces are really affected by what's going on with like the collective. So there could be a lot of collective power struggles and drama and things going on globally, and it's like affecting your dreams and you're feeling like you're getting slimed, but it's not hitting you directly. So on the 19th of the month, you're going to have Venus and Pluto come into conjunction. I feel like this means that you need some retreat from the intensity of what's going on in the world. You're also going to see on the 22nd, Mercury will conjunct Pluto, and this could mean that there is some dramatic changes that are going on in relationships, or like feeling like something is coming to an end in a relationship, and inner revelations or really prominent dreams. And then on the 23rd, you're going to see the sun coming into conjunction with Pluto, and you have to really watch your health and your habits on that day, especially if you're overworking or if there's some bad habits that are kind of coming up that need to be dealt with. And then on the 27th of the month, you're going to see Mars coming into conjunction with Pluto, and this looks like it's about some really powerful, intense closure about your beliefs. It could also mean that you're traveling, you're in a foreign land, you're dealing with, you know, relationships or working with people in foreign places. But the 12th house is hidden enemies. So it can mean that with Pluto being there, you know, there are people who are kind of like confronting you, and it's really testing your beliefs about the world. It's also testing your beliefs about relationships, you know, work, health, all of that stuff. And I think that there will probably be some focus on, you know, just profound spiritual or psychological transformation, and powerful healing is possible, but I think a lot of you guys are going to get this in your sleep. Now, I would be working with binaural beats or healing frequencies. If I were a Pisces rising, I'd be listening to it before I go to sleep at night. Sound baths can also be helpful, or just anything that's going to raise your vibration and kind of help you kind of purge and deflect from some of the stuff that's going to be going on in the world, because you're going to get hit by it. Wear your fluorite, maybe take your, you know, your salt baths, maybe also do some like affirmations before you go to bed, because the 12th house is going to be like what's kind of going on at the vibes in your bedroom. And be mindful that those oppositions that are going to kind of be happening are definitely you're going to be feeling pulled in two different directions. And I feel like it's really like I can go and do things with other people, but I'd rather be focusing on what I'm creating, what I'm working on right here. Now you're going to see Venus trine Uranus on the 15th, which I think is great for you. So Venus will be here and it's trining Uranus here. So it's great for connecting, giving speeches, publishing things, writing stuff, putting it online. And then Mars from your 11th house will trine Uranus as well. And that's also good for anything that's connected to teaching or education. Also just liberating your dreams with like exciting like social surprises. And then like I said, Neptune is going to be going into your second house on the 26th. And this is about really approaching financial matters in an intuitive way, compassionate earning, making money maybe through art, through music. It can also mean that you're trying to become more focused on being either self-employed or independent when it comes to your finances. And you'll see there's more of a theme on, you know, more responsibility that you have to take with your finances later this year with Saturn and Neptune both in that sign. So best days for you, I like the Venus-Uranus trine, great for social sparks around the 15th. I think the other thing that I would really kind of focus on is that there is going to be just a great deal of energy that's kind of happening in the 12th house. And it's not that it's inherently negative. It just means that there are things that have to kind of get cycled out before you can get into Pisces season. And then you'll see when we get into Pisces season, you know, end of February, there'll be a Mercury retrograde and you're still sorting out a relationship theme. And then there's an eclipse and then you're, you know, still kind of like refocusing on yourself. So There's some challenging transits, I think, pretty much all around. Between the oppositions to Jupiter and a bunch of planets being in the 12th house, this is not necessarily the easiest month for a Pisces. Does not mean that it's a bad month, but I don't think you guys are really going to be feeling on the up and up until we're getting either closer to, you know, more so the second half of February or the beginning of March. What I do think I would watch for is on January 1st, Mercury actually starts in Sagittarius in your work zone, and it's going to square Neptune. So watch for misunderstandings or miscommunications, and like there being some kind of misconnection or something that is misunderstood between a superior or somebody at work. I think also, you know, just watch for the oppositions where there's this joy versus kind of group excess. And like, I look at this and I would feel it's a Pisces rising. Am I in a room full of people and I should be like feeling totally thrilled and ecstatic with something, but really like, do I feel alone, or do I feel like I would rather be at home with my kids, or I would rather be with my partner, or, you know, I'd rather be working on a project, and like kind of feeling like you're getting kind of, coerced to going and following the crowd. Don't do that. Don't keep up with the Joneses. Don't compare yourself to other people, and really try to be mindful of some of the more intense energies that are going to come up this month when planets are coming into conjunction with Pluto, because it means that, you know, you are kind of clearing out old karma and like clearing out anything that's kind of blocking you or hindering you from being able to move forward. The advice that I would give you guys for the month ahead would be connect outwardly early in the month. Use that new moon to really align with like new communities and like focusing on setting new intentions and goals, and try to balance some of these oppositions to Jupiter with like a playful pull, like a lot of like, I don't know, I'll let you know, like not having to be flat out, no, I'm not interested. And then also mid-month when planets go into your 12th house, there is this need to do a deep dive subconsciously and surrender. Trust your subconscious shifts for healing. Really try to do something that's going to be connecting to healing and sound. And remember that Neptune shifting signs means that your value in yourself is going to shift. Some of you guys might attract abundance intuitively, and also just kind of ground your finances practically. You need to really watch your finances pretty much between now and April, because there's going to be a sense of kind of like you're on your own now with some financial situations if you're not careful. I think that, you know, there's going to be big dreams socially. You can release gently within, and also kind of like let compassion guide a lot of the decisions that you're going to be making financially for the month ahead. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what these cards say for my Pisces and my Pisces risings. What can you tell us about January 2026? What do they need to know? Oh, I love that. You get the 8 of coins. Working hard. I could see that with like Capricorn in the 11th. It's like a lot of people that you have to meet, you have to connect with, like you have to kind of show them what you've been working on, what you've been creating. And it can be a big month of like debuting, especially when I think of like the full moon in Cancer in your 5th house in opposition to the 11th. You might be like, this is what I've been working on. This is what I've been dedicating all my time to. This is why I haven't been available, you know? And this means like really honing in on your craft and perfecting what you're doing, and also like abundance and money coming from feeling like a job well done. Almost as if there is a sense of having to present something or put something out there that not only did it require a great amount of like care and detail, but like you really want other people to appreciate what you've created. You want them to look at it and go, wow, you've done something really amazing here. And you may see that, especially right around like January, you know, the 3rd, when you have a full moon, like you might display something or launch something or put something out, and it really catches people's attention. And then everybody's interested in wanting to like be best friends with you. And you can only take on so much. You know, the 5th house is fame. So it can indicate that there is like a sense of just you having your moment, and anybody and everybody is just so interested, or, you know, wanting to connect or collaborate, or potentially even like envious. I could see that of you, but I would say keep your head down, keep working, you know, don't make any sacrifices, really continue to focus on the quality of what you're creating, especially if it's something that you enjoy doing. And also I think that I would be really focusing on setting some intentions revolving around goals, professional goals, friendship goals, like that kind of stuff, because you want people who are going to keep pushing you and inspiring you to kind of be the best version of yourself. All right, so Pisces, I hope it's a good month for you guys. I will be seeing you back here in February. And to everybody who watched these all the way through, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I always get to the end of like the year in December, and like truth be told, I don't really slow down until December. I usually take a couple weeks off in between, you know, December and the beginning of January. I just can't believe how fast this year went. It was really crazy. And once again, thank you guys for watching my channel. Thank you guys for becoming members, supporting me, being here on the lives, everything that you guys do, taking my courses and supporting my work. Every like, every comment, every share, every subscription is confirmation that I'm doing something out there to make a difference. Please let me know, leave me comments below, let me know how your January kind of manifests. Keep in mind, like I said, the month is going to kick off very, very strongly, and it is going to be an intense period from now until April. We've got eclipses in February, we've got more eclipses in March, we've got a retrograde in Pisces, we've got a Saturn and Neptune conjunction that's going to be happening, and then we've got also a bunch of planets that are going to go through Aries. I keep calling this year a brave new world. Things are going to be very different over the next couple of months. And I really hope to inspire other people to really use this month to get some things going and get some stuff in action, so we're ready for some of the new stuff that's going to be coming. So if you guys like this, please do give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell button below so you can see more of my horoscopes. We also do horoscopes here, new and full moon reports, all that good stuff. Click the links below if you want to see more about me. You can head over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I am taking appointments now in March and April of 2026. So if you know that you are a Pisces, if you're an Aries, if you're a Taurus and you're going on a reading, I recommend you book it now because I'm very busy. And if you guys want to join my Astrology 301 course, I am going to be teaching my advanced astrology techniques at the end of January 2026. We have very limited spaces left for students, but if you want to sign up, check out my website. And I hope you guys enjoy the month of January. Happy holidays, happy new year, and I will see you guys back here for eclipse season, February 2026. Take care.